Hello,
Anyway,
everyone,
question mark?
and welcome to Fleet's Random Ramblings 112. We're back again, and I hope you're all having a fantastic time, both on Discord and on YouTube. So, a few things. First things first. I have been getting a little bit tired of the current Ramblings formula. It's beginning to get a little bit tiring, and we do seem to come across a lot of very similar questions, which is probably just down to how long we've been bloody going. 4 years of this, 2 years of it actually recorded. So it's not exactly like we haven't covered ground. We've definitely covered ground. 4 years of it for basically every week for 4 years solid. Which is not bad innings if you think about it. apart from the first break I ever took from Ramblings, which was this holiday period just gone. So, few key things. First of all, this will be a normal Ramblings for the first hour. Of course, please feel free to ask as many questions as you like. As per usual, the bot is running, and any questions that we don't get to will obviously be collected by the bot in YouTube, and of course, will just be there ready to be stored away for Friday in Ramblings text. Secondly, and the most important thing, we are going to actually review the entries for the ship design contest that we ran, and we're going to then select a winner. Obviously, well, there's no prize. There's just a there's just your fleet's bragging rights, I guess. That's all I can really say.
The pride of knowing your design won.
Yeah, basically. Then once we've done that, the final hour will be something I'm gonna call. I'm basically gonna pick a topic I want to talk about, and we're gonna talk about it. Be it a question we didn't have time to expand upon, something I felt like we've talked about and didn't actually get a chance to thoroughly, discuss, or things like that. And from this point onwards, not all Monday slots will be normal ramblings. The show will be called Fleet's Random Ramblings, but whether it's a Q&A or whether it's a something more directed by me, you'll have to wait and see. So like I say, mostly as normal today, but we'll have an hour of normal questions. Please feel free to keep asking questions after. If you're on YouTube, please feel free to ask questions after the hour is done. If you're on Discord, you can as well, but just bear in mind that you'll be adding to the massive pile, so don't try and overdo it, because we don't have unlimited time on Fridays to answer questions. Oh, yes. If the Monday slot isn't a normal Ramblings, a Q&A, it probably will be moved to the Friday slot, depending on how I feel. There will still be something on a Friday, whether it's a Ramblings Q&A or another event. Since we've gotten used to that bi-weekly program, that's what we'll stick with. But I just felt like I was getting into a rut, and I wanted to kind of shake things up. But, without further ado, let's get on with the questions. So, first things first, Patreon questions, as we always do. And that won't change. On a Monday, we will always answer the Patreon questions. That won't change. Since they have dibs. And hey, if you want your questions answered every week, you now know what you need to do. This wasn't intentional, but if you want a question answered every single week, regardless of what we're doing, get on the Patreon and grab yourself the role. Anyway, so Timu Locker asks, last night it dawned on me that quite a few new UK light rail routes are really just old lines making a cheeky comeback. So in the panel's view, which route deserves a second chance? Say the Leamside line or the Tavistock Plymouth line? What should they return as? Conventional light rail or diesel battery tram trains? Well, I can understand why you'd think that, but it's important to bear in mind there's a very important distinction here. A lot of UK light rail has taken advantage of alignments that have been abandoned / taken over by it, but
that still exist.
But
so it's much easier to reclaim a abandoned alignment than it is to create a completely new one.
But it's also important to bear in mind that they usually use these to achieve certain objectives as part of a larger light rail network. So, for example, in Sheffield and Manchester and Birmingham and London, every time they use these heavy rail corridors, it's because it's conveniently located along where they want to go, rather than for the purpose of reactivating that old heavy rail corridor. If you want to talk about reactivating heavy rail corridors, you want to talk about reactivating them as conventional rail, not light rail. Everywhere light rail has done things in this fashion, it's because it's benefited the light railway system, not because it's been part of a goal to reactivate a section of track.
Also, the other thing to bear in mind, battery-powered vehicles, I don't see them working on a light rail style system, purely because the battery weight is going to make those vehicles heavy enough that you're going to have problems on anything that's not heavy rail.
Well, about that. Yeah, unfortunately wrong.
Oh?
A bunch of Scottish light rails have been testing it and has now actually got a full set going of purely battery-powered locos.
What's the battery tech they're using?
It's the same tech that I can't remember exactly, but it was the tech I was using while I was in university because it's what I actually did my level 6 my level 6 masters on in the dissertation. Where was it?
Because I know when the Germans tried it with, I think they were using lead acid. They had weight issues. They tried to make it a battery-powered rail vehicle, and it was actually the weight of the batteries was so much it actually bent the car body down.
Most of the pages have been deleted at this point, unfortunately, because they're old documentation. But yeah, no, they are actually a thing that was being used. It's a combination of Bombardier and who was it?
I can see it working if they're using something like lithium iron phosphate.
Yeah, primarily using Bombardier batteries. So likely whatever they're using.
Probably lithium iron phosphate then, because that's currently our step up battery chemistry from lead acid in terms of stability and capacity. Of course, who knows when we're going to get solid state batteries, and theoretically that solves all issues, but who knows?
Apparently also Stadler has been doing the same with a Liverpool line with a Class 777.
Okay. Well, I stand corrected.
Yeah, that is operated on by Mersey Travel, if Mersey Rail are in the Liverpool area.
I'd be very interested to see what the range on those is, because obviously there's a trade-off between the amount of battery you can carry and how heavy they are.
From reading, standard range of 55 kilometers.
Ah.
But with like a 10-minute recharge.
Yeah, okay.
So just pull into a station, recharge, go.
Now, 10 minutes is still longer than you'd walk for a dwell time, but
It depends on just how light rail your light rail is.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that's going off the 777 by Stadler. I seem to recall the Bombardier one was better.
Okay. Excuse me. The other thing towards your question is that you, a lot of the times, a lot of the old routes, the old right-of-ways were well designed, so it makes, and given, again, a lot of the right-of-way is still there, even if there's no track, it makes zero sense not to use an existing right-of-way.
It's like they recently restored a line in the northeast that's been out of service for like 50 years, and it's come back.
Who has raised their hand? Oh.
When was it?
Mm.
Because I know they've restored the Northumberland line, which had been out of service for 60 years between Ashington and Seton Delaval.
I mean, the other thing you're starting to see as well is some of the heritage lines that took over older right-of-way that was abandoned. You're starting to see them connect up to the main line again. Most notable example comes to my mind is Swanage. With their connection at, I want to say it's Wareham. So they are able to actually function as a proper railway, despite the fact they're technically a heritage railway. So you're seeing some of that as well.
Right. Okay. So. Next question. Admiral Wellesley, Insanity 2, asks, Hello, Fleet. If a Ulysses-type event would happen to our Earth, how do you think it would affect post-landfall Earth, assuming we have a Stonehenge-type system like in the Strange Reel defending the planet? Where did the majority of the Ulysses fragments hit? And where would that be on our Earth?
Everywhere.
Yes, but who got hit? Who got hammered the hardest?
Everyone.
Okay.
Right. Technically, it's the what's the continent from 6 called?
Okay. Who? Okay.
Fights of Liberation.
What, the one from where Mary is in?
Yeah. Who didn't?
Yeah, I'm
get
trying to
hammered?
figure out which
Who
country
didn't?
was in 6, because they're said to be one of the worst. That was the Ameria Estevacia. They got hit hard because they didn't have any orbital defenses set up because it was still being built.
Oh, Estevacia. Yeah. Oh, Estevacia is Russia. Oh dear.
Not. No, it's not.
No,
really.
Yugoslav is.
Like,
that continent is called Anea.
Yeah, that's why I don't think it's really fair saying which continents got hit, what got hit most in Ace Combat, because Earth's very different.
Yeah, and it's more of a case of the Ulysses broke up into so many fragments it took out the entire satellite network at the time. And the entire planet was hit. Isn't it Usia who had their capital hit?
Yeah, Fabanti was hit.
Yeah, and they rebuilt it in the crater, but that would be the equivalent of New York getting.
As we know, Stonehenge took a near miss. Like, even the places with Stonehenge were hit hard.
I
Okay.
mean, that's what happened
In
when you
particular,
shatter an asteroid.
Usia was deemed to be on the wrong. Basically, where is Stonehenge? Because at the end of the day, if it follows what happened in today's combat, the side which doesn't have Stonehenge is the bit which is getting hit the hardest.
Yeah, and even the side with Stonehenge is getting hit hard.
Yeah.
Because Stonehenge, about 3/4 of the way through its firing time, gets hit by a fragment that knocks most of the guns offline.
Apparently,
Uh,
Douglas
allows
Yachty is
fragments.
They
saying...
managed to, over 2 weeks, fragments fell. They managed to intercept a large number of them, preventing a mass extinction event, but failed to completely protect all locations. Places such as Combeth Harbour, Anchorhead, were remarkably unharmed, but others such as St. Ark, Bunty, the Newfield Island, Los Canas, the Scully Island, Scalupa, all suffered massive impacts that completely altered their geography.
So
over
from
30 impact craters measured over 1 mile in diameter on the continent of Usia itself.
So, apparently, according to Douglas Yachty, in Infinity, there is a Stonehenge on Earth, but
There is.
where is it?
I don't entirely remember is the answer. Where was it? Huh? Well, the answer is there was multiple. They built multiple different installations. Site 0 was in China, Site 1 in America, 2 in Australia, 3 in Turkey, 4 in Namibia, 5 in Argentina.
I mean, if they've done...
They built multiple 7 railgun systems.
I mean, if they've done that, then Earth survives Stonehenge better... Sorry, Earth survives Ulysses better than Strange Reel does. Significantly better.
Not really.
It clearly said, despite the effort, Stonehenge was unable to prevent massive damage from being inflicted on the world.
I'm sorry,
Casualties were incurred.
If one of them can shoot down most of Ulysses' fragments by itself, you spread 5 of the bloody things all over Earth. I'm sorry, none of those fragments are getting through. That's enough redundancy. The systems can... The systems can cover each other. That's enough redundancy. There's no gaps.
Note how there was nothing in Europe or Russia.
Yep.
Or Africa, practically, apart from the Nambian one. There's vast chunks of area which is not properly covered.
And remember, Stonehenge shoots down the fragments that can cause the mass extinction or localized mass extinction. A lot more smaller fragments that aren't targeted get through and do a lot of localized damage.
Put it this way, it is explicitly stated, Moa pointed out, despite all 6 facilities opening up, efforts prevented a mass extinction, but despite the large number of facilities, Stonehenge was unable to prevent the massive damage being inflicted. Numerous casualties, and many became refugees, and the world's superpowers crumbled because of the damage.
Yeah.
But assuming there is just one installation, like there is in most days' combat timelines, it affects things pretty badly.
It needs to be in Europe. Europe has to be preserved above anywhere else. That's where the core of the world's financial systems are. And without those, the world doesn't recover.
While yes, that doesn't mean it'll be built in Europe.
Yeah.
There's plenty of arguments between the different powers.
And not really. Europe is the core of the world's banking system. It's where the majority of human endeavor comes from, if I'm being blunt. It's where the majority of scientific...
It's your opinion.
These are all excellent arguments, Fleet.
But tell that to the Chinese.
To all the Americans.
Or the Americans, to be fair.
Yeah.
The Americans are
the
big
Russians
enough.
Technically,
probably okay
the
with it in
best
Europe.
place to put it would be for maximum coverage of Sahara Desert.
Yeah,
You're
honestly.
probably gay.
Yeah.
But that's only protecting Afro-Eurasia. Because we know Stonehenge, while it's goated, at long range shooting at fragments, it did have trouble with mountain ranges.
Wellesley,
The problem
Wellesley,
was
you're
something
the one.
that end
so
up.
many fragments.
Wellesley, you're the one who asked the
When it
question.
comes
Why are
to
you asking
US
us? Why are you asking us where Ulysses makes landfall? You're the one who asked the question.
Because he's at. Because
Oh, Western
how do you
Europe.
think it? He's asking us as part of it. It doesn't.
I'm just
This
saying.
doesn't say Western Europe in the question.
I'm going to put this out
So,
there. The
okay,
majority
Fleet, did you
of
copy
the
the
U.S.'s
question?
population is
I did.
along the eastern seaboard.
Let's have a look.
Yeah, but I asked him again. But he asked again, so I gave him an answer. Right.
I did copy the question verbatim.
One network, let's say, in the German plains. Then Europe is pretty good. Russia's main population centers are good. North of
East
Africa.
Coast is fine. Most of Africa's fine. China's
Well, most of
fucked.
North Africa.
Oh wow.
China's in trouble. South America's in trouble.
The loss of China will hurt, but we could rebuild. It's not that.
It'll be more than just.
Yes,
Yeah,
the
but
destruction
it's
of 1/6 of the world's population is
Yeah,
fine.
but it's not a mass extinction event.
Well, it's not even just that. It's also, to be brutally honest, what percentage of the world's production is located in China at this point? It's
In China, not it's a
Like-
little less, but
In that-
it's
in
still
that- in that-
mostly in that region.
in that.
it's
The
it's
thing
a
is,
hell of a
reason-
percentile. Though.
the reason why I'm saying it's not as bad. If it was 2020, if it was post 2010, I would be agreeing with you, Dragon. But it's not. It's 94. This is the beginning of the swing towards Chinese manufacturing. There are significant enough manufacturing bases still in the UK, Europe, North Africa.
Oh,
The
then
Middle
and
East.
the U.S. is absolutely going to be trying to protect the Midwest and the Mississippi as well.
Like
Right, so from what I'm reading, actually, no, this is still bad. In 1994, still something like 20% of the world's imports come from China.
okay, yes, but bear in mind,
That
if
is
no,
bad.
if we are talking about a world that has been hit by asteroid fragments, I'm gonna be real with you. If it's not urgently needed kit, like food supplies, which China is not a major exporter of, even at this point, quite frankly,
Yeah, if you can
we're
keep-
talking on a scale here where the loss of manufactured goods is quite frankly, yes. Is it going to sting economically? Yes. But quite frankly, we have bigger fish to fry.
No, this isn't going to sting
Yeah,
economically.
Frankly,
This is gonna be
geopolitically
no.
speaking, bold of you to
Well,
assume
you
there's
are
going to be
wrong
only
place.
one
You're all back at the
Stonehenge.
wrong place.
that's your food taken
No,
care of.
the loss of China isn't the issue. The loss of Siberia is the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Because even at this point, the majority of natural gas and oil consumed by Europe, as well as most agricultural goods, are from Siberia and the Russian steppe.
Well, the Russian steppe will be the Russian steppe should be.
The Russian steppe will be fucked.
Well, the Ukrainians won't be.
Yeah, they will. Potentially.
Yeah, they will.
No, if you're saying that Russian population centers will be fine, then those are east of Ukraine. So Ukraine will also be fine.
No. The loss of natural gas and the fuel, Europe's gone. Because by 94, Europe's transitioned mainly from Iranian gas to Russian and Soviet gas.
You do realize we're talking about a
Yeah.
post. Like, there are other sources of oil and natural gas. It's
Can I
gonna
finish?
yes.
Because you're doing this while the world also enters a volcanic winter, which is going to see mass failures of agriculture, especially since, because of the Appalachians, you're going to have a poor coverage of the American Midwest, America's breadbasket. So you're going to lose a lot of the breadbasket. You're going to have Siberia badly damaged, which is you're going to lose access to the Russian steppe and farmland on the Ural Sea.
Well, we're assuming it's going to be badly damaged. It may not be.
It will be.
If it's anything like what happens in Strange Reel, where yes, one facility managed to do an awful lot because, again, we have mentioned how stupidly powerful Stonehenge is previously. It is that powerful, but Ulysses is quite a big asteroid and does a lot of. Either way, though, the way it's split up, it quite heavily damages all of the continents, and the ones that aren't properly covered take a hell of a beating. So, likely, yeah, no, the US Midwest is probably going to take a good few hits, and it's not going to be pretty.
It's not going to be pretty, but I don't think it's going to be the level of. I mean, the crop failures. Yes, I absolutely agree. I'm not.
Yeah,
that's not even.
Crop failures are going to be bad.
Like that's Foxo is absolutely right on that point. Like, there's no point even arguing it. She's absolutely right. But what I will push back on is, the lack of fuel. I'm gonna push back on this quite aggressively. I'm not saying that there is going to be a lack of fuel, but I am going to say that are we basically going to say that the governments are going to let consumption go on as normal? No, of course they're not. They're gonna ration the heck out of everything. Essential travel only. No fuel for private cars or motoring. Buses and public transport get fuel, but that's about it. And you lean into what reserves you've got from the North Sea, what's left of Arabia, and what's left of Russia. It's gonna sting like hell, but it's better than everyone starving to death.
The
and
US
there
is
being no
also going to
economic
ramp up
activity.
The US
native
doesn't
production
matter.
quite heavily.
The US doesn't matter because you've lost China and you've lost the Yellow and the Yangtze River. You've lost India and you've lost the farmlands.
I don't think you've
of
lost
the
India.
North Indian Plain.
I don't think you've lost
It's
India.
outside of the major protective bubble.
Stonehenge wasn't that bad from what I've read.
It's not bad, but it's still, these countries receive massive amounts of devastation.
Yes, but not gone.
No, we're talking fragments that were too small to be targeted by Stonehenge. A single hit by them wiped out the city the size of Beijing, modern Beijing.
Well, yeah, was that a direct hit on the city?
Near miss.
Right. Also, I think an excellent example is the image Wellesley posted earlier of what happened to Farbanti.
Those buildings are still standing. That's very
after they were
impressive.
rebuilt.
Yeah.
No, but even the ones in the water, they're still standing.
They were rebuilt.
Then why are they flooded?
Because the tidal activities, because we know they put anti-air missile batteries and all sorts on them.
No, but that
Like some of these are damaged. Yeah, you can see some of them are damaged, but a lot of them, these are basically the remnants of that what have survived or have been worked on or being disassembled.
Okay, because from what I'm reading,
Like you can see, the small ones have a number of them were
the strange
maybe not rebuilt, but
strange wheels, polar ice caps and polar regions were not protected, and thus got hit heavily. The shattering of the ice caps led to a significant increase in sea level over the next 10 to 15 years. Meaning that a lot of coastal regions got flooded a decade down the line after they were rebuilt. Because losing the ice caps does that. And you've also got the issue of you've mass cooled the oceans, which means you've cut off about, over the next decade, 30% of the world's food supply on Earth. You've lost the American Midwest. You've got a volcanic ice age coming along. And the main surviving producers of fuel and natural gas are extremely reliant on outside import of food.
Honestly, as long as the farm equipment survives, you can probably have stuff in the ground again for next season.
Not if next season doesn't come for the next 5-6 years.
Stonehenge didn't cause a volcanic winter in Strange Real.
It caused mass cooling.
Yes, but that's not a
And
volcanic
it
winter.
caused mass famine.
Yes, but that's not a volcanic winter. Like you're describing.
The
A
whole
mass
thing of
famine
next season comes
here's my
caused
is not
question.
quite
by
How much
right.
impact
warning-
and debris in the atmosphere,
That doesn't mean it's a volcanic.
which yes, technically it's different, but it's functionally the same as a volcanic and a nuclear winter.
Yes, but the difference is it won't last nearly as long. There will be next season. There won't be a 5-year. You are
Actually,
You are-
it would then shatter into numerous fragments, bombard the northern hemisphere with the force of 2 million nuclear warheads, generating impact that plunged the world into a nuclear winter.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The real world isn't surviving this with civilizations intact, and Strange Real shouldn't have either. The fact it did was just bullshit.
Rain real
That's what's
survived
strange
because
about it.
like would get survival. It's just
Here would be my question: how much early warning is there?
Strange
5
Real,
years.
Strange Real survived so well. Strange Real survived so bloody well that 10 years afterwards they built a fucking space elevator.
What was that, Dragon?
It's discovered 94. It hits 99, I believe.
That's 5 years to prepare. You
That's
could
not a lot
get
of time.
if the approach you're taking is batten down the hatches and try and get as much stuff as you can under the cover of your defense bubble, you can probably pull off a lot more than you think. Like,
Well, for instance,
as I
they do-
mentioned,
nations do try this.
stockpile farm equipment.
We know Grey Mercia, for instance, had massive bunker complexes established, to quote, capable of housing over 200,000 individuals, as well as stuff for it. They were relatively well equipped for the handle of aftermath. The problem was everything else that happened at the same time.
Yeah, I'm not talking about shelters for people. I'm talking about getting the stuff that that may not be around afterwards that you're still going to need. Again, farm equipment. A lot of the advanced parts that you need for, let's say, building new natural gas facilities.
yeah, because an advantage Strange Real also had is it gets disproportionately lucky in that most impacts are against the continents themselves. There's not a lot of impacts into the ocean. And so they're able to transition from a largely agricultural survival economy to a largely fishing and fishery economy.
No, as I said, to be fair, Ace Combat's incredibly lucky because the actual amount of casualties is pretty low. It is calculated 500,000 people were basically instantly killed, and at least 1 million more were displaced overall. But the actual estimated damage was to that of 18 months of the entire continent's worth of GDP. They got relatively lucky.
Yeah, because Stonehenge did its job.
It's
What
good
I-
job as a kid.
In particular, the Northern Hemisphere had some of the worst with Usia dealing with a lot of stuff. They end up having to, and this ended up resulting in Eurasia basically going, we're taking over the railgun, thanks. Slovakia was hit badly, suffering massive devastation and left its economy effectively in shambles, leading to a civil war. This led to the fight against Imeria. Osea was relatively lucky of only minor fragments hit it mostly, but what's it called? They eventually used stuff like megalith and such to work on them. This was then brought up in 2008's G7 summit, where they were talking about it. In particular, the Arkbird was then used to clear it up. Yucatania also had taken hits, but managed to mostly carry on. I. So it really comes down to where the fragments hit.
Yeah.
How bad is it?
And as for what we see in actual combat in the games, it becomes readily apparent that a lot of the nations that start the conflict close to Ulysses are in a use it or lose it situation.
One that's interesting is in Whiskey Corridor, you've got the Goldberg crater, which was hit by one of the fragments that created a crater 8.4 kilometers wide. This caused the entire city to dry up because it actually had quite a large amount of water channels in and out. But it was basically a bastion in a desert. Its water was gone. You've got multiple others that show quite high levels of devastation in the area. In fact, actually, this is a very good image. This is the major impact sites on Enea. And you can see sort of how lucky they got. And how badly Estavakia got.
Yeah, doesn't Estavakia get a minor case of fascism from this?
Yeah, they have full-blown civil war and then military junta.
And then they built the largest aerial fleet the planet has ever seen, which sucks.
Aren't Estavakia the ones with the nuclear railgun that wasn't
Yes,
ready in time?
Chandelier, which was meant to be built to stop it, try and defend them, and basically they couldn't physically build it fast enough. That is the problem.
And then that gets turned into a catapult for nuclear weapons.
If our country has to suffer, you have to suffer too.
I remember because it's one of the most haunting missions in the game.
Because you constantly hear the radio chatter of another round fired, X many casualties.
Yeah,
because they just are bombarding.
Yeah, target X location, predicted casualties, and it says functional casualties. It's just like those numbers in the hundreds of thousands per shot.
And this is what happens when basically people go, "We don't care, we've lost. We're making you suffer too."
Yeah. And the whole reason they can do that, despite their country being a literal crater, is because the railgun survives relatively intact.
No, railgun's actually basically unharmed.
I thought it had a damaged power supply.
If I can find the actual thing on Chandelier.
Am I thinking of the other one that was released?
No, I think Chandelier was actually pretty safe from being hit by the look.
Because I remember one was leaking radiation when they used it.
Yeah, because the biggest problem with Ace Combat is they fail. In 1994, they made the calculations where it hit, and then 1998 they realized, oh, that's not where it's just hitting.
Anyway,
because
we have been on this question for a little bit.
Yeah. So I've just done a bit of digging, right? And if you take, someone's actually done the maths for this. If you take where Ulysses, the day Ulysses would have hit, and if you pick one of the few approach angles that it wouldn't be caught up and deflected by the moon, it would have hit 200 miles off the eastern coast of the Philippines.
Ooh.
And if you shot it down, all primary fragments would have fallen over the Philippines and China.
I mean, sacrifice your life for the planet, lads, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what's also
if
in
I'm
that region?
This situation. Go ahead.
What's also in that Western Pacific? It's a belt that goes all down coastal regions of the Pacific and through the Philippines and through Indonesia. That last time was hit by a large asteroid historically caused a mass extinction event.
Honestly, if I'm in charge of the U.S., my game plan is basically just abandon everything except the East Coast, stockpile as much stuff as I can on the U.S. East Coast, so that as soon as the coast is clear, just surge back out with all the farming equipment, all the industrial parts and tools and everything, basically rebuild the Midwest, and then eventually expand further westward again, but basically hunker down on the U.S. East Coast.
So the
And then
damage
put
that those
a
persons
lot of
would
effort into rebuilding the Midwest.
have
afterward.
the Rocky Mountains taking most of the brunt of the force that hits America.
Yeah, so just like abandon everything west of the Mississippi, basically.
But also, seeing that Ring of Fire get a direct hit from that level of energy would not be a good time for the planet.
This sounds like you've now just also had a Project Wingman happen.
Bloody
I mean,
Crimson
that would
One.
be hell of a thing. Yellowstone goes up because of a Ulysses impact.
Orange. It's all orange.
I mean, Japan and Indonesia are fucked, even if they don't get hit directly.
The entire East Asian coastline is fucked.
Speaking of which, do we know what happened to Europe in Project Wingman?
No, do we know what happened to what in
To
Wingman?
Europe in Project Wingman?
Europe.
I think we do.
Just to round out this
We
question,
know
like a little
bits.
interesting. Just to round out this question with a little bit of an off-topic.
From what we know, Europe is united, but is very isolated.
Yeah, we know we know very little bits on it, but in particular, we know the Republic of Albion exists.
Oh, that's annoying.
Okay.
Republic of Albion, honestly, come on.
Which is a little concerning about that.
Yeah.
But we also know that you formed the United Kern Europa Alliance, which get involved in Africa and are basically a counterforce to the Pacific Federation.
I mean, I'm all for
It's believed that it originates in Germany.
Yeah, but we also know that Albion is a part of that greater European group.
That's fine.
We only know them specifically because they're one of the few people that interact with Cascadia. By basically being Lockheed Martin and going, "You want bombs? We have bombs."
I mean, that's based, but also it should really be the Kingdom of Albion, because I can't see the monarchy failing to
I
survive.
would prefer it to be Kingdom, but then again, Wingman's a lot of stuff went differently.
Yeah,
and also, in a nice way, it does sound kind of like it's the Scottish section which survived, which means it could have been the SMP.
Even so, I mean...
So we know its capital is in York, so...
That's definitely something.
Because London's underwater because of the apocalypse.
So, in other words, what we're actually dealing with is actually this is a republic which has been run by Fleet, who's claiming he's actually not a Midlander, and he said his capital up in York.
Also, I'm going to point out one final thing on this one then about the whole thing. You say about how you think Britain would still have the monarchy. Unfortunately, considering Project Wingman is set sometime around 2450.
Yeah.
Things can change a lot. And considering how badly the world was messed over, as much as I love the monarchy.
Because the entire...
What was the question now?
It's alright, we've just wrapped it up. We're not going back into it.
So just for context, in Wingman in the 2020s, someone in Cascadia accidentally finds a material known as cordium. which is that accidentally sets. If they mine it, they detonate it, which turns out causes the apocalypse because the Pacific just explodes. Because underneath the Pacific Ocean was just cordium.
Whoops. Oh well.
It causes an apocalypse, which causes people to create cults with aircraft.
Oh, please tell me one of them's not the cult of the Blackburn. Blackburn, I don't like to think that I
No, you get the cult of the. No,
had so much.
You got a better one.
Term.
The cult of the Avro Arrow.
Yes.
You have just caused my poodle to run upstairs.
And so we know Australia was taken over and run by warlord cultists.
Mercenary. They weren't cultists.
I'm sorry, look at some of the extended reading about how they treated their pilots. They were cultists.
Oh, the Brazilian Empire's back. Interesting.
I said these are fan-made maps, but also note how in both of them, Chile's just gone.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah.
Also, I like how the UK is just
La Plata or the Republic of Patagonia.
I do like how everywhere else in the world is some semblance of fucked, and then you look at the UK and it's like, what? Nothing changed.
Yeah, because the reason Europe is fed is because there's not much cordium in Europe.
Yeah.
But to be fair, most people do agree, Fleet, that Britain is unlikely to be a republic. But they are considered.
I'm not surprised they're part of Europe,
could
though.
Be
I'm not surprised.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised.
That's related to the fact they have this giant alliance.
Yeah.
They might just be called the Republic of this as part of this, but they might still have a monarchy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we know the Federation also contains monarchies, because the Federal Republic of Magadan is actually a monarchy.
Also, it could be that the Federation is now ruled by the British monarchy, and therefore the Britain itself is a republic underneath the monarchy.
Possibly.
Well, yeah, that could be the thing. We could have finally listened to to the Wikipedia page, which says you can help by expanding this list, and actually started expanding.
Although, funnily enough, I can't.
Or if you go off that one mission where you're going after the prototype for Wingman, for the Project Wingman.
Yeah.
You could also go that the monarchy got couped by BAE, and BAE are running the country.
I mean, there is also the possibility that United Kern European Alliance, is united. Basically, it's kind of it's a botching of the old word for United Kingdom. So it's United Kingdoms of Europe in alliance.
I do like how in the first map, Italy's just been severed, and then most of it is an exclusion zone.
Also, yeah. I don't want to reveal anything too much now, but as far as I know, I don't think BAE would coup the monarchy, because I think the monarchy might actually be major shareholders of BAE.
Anyway, moving on.
This is Project Wingman BAE.
In which case, they would dealing with the coup would be just the medium of them calling a shareholder vote and winning.
Yeah. Anyway, so Douglas Yotti asks, what if after the Austro-Prussian War of 1866, the Kingdom of Hungary had seceded from Austria sometime after the war? How would that affect German unification and the rest of Europe? So, as we know, historically, after the Austro-Prussian War of 1866, this is one of the events that causes Austria to become Austria-Hungary, which, although it's a common misconception, was not one country, it was two. Everyone forgets Hungary did just flat-out secede from Austria in 1866. It's why on the map they shared the same colour, but had two visually distinct boundaries between the two nations. Because for all intents and purposes, aside from the monarch as the unifying factor, able to direct both parliaments and therefore unify both countries, Hungary and Austria were, after that point, independent polities. But
the only thing they really shared was the navy, wasn't it?
Yeah, because that's why it went from being the Kriegsmarine to being the Kaiserliche und Königliche Kriegsmarine after 1886, because it's the Emperor and the King, Emperor of Austria, King of Hungary. But if we instead have a proper full separation and the Kingdom of Hungary just goes, right, that's it, we're out completely, and they, I don't know, they elect either another Habsburg as, like, you know, a separate part of, like, sort of, they're like allied to Austria, but not ruled by Franz Joseph. Maybe they find another Habsburg. I don't know. But
They rather like, they actually liked his son. They liked his son, the one who the Austrians didn't like because he was forced him into a morganatic marriage.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So if Hungary does go fully independent, that leads us to a few things. Firstly, there are some benefits to Austria for this. A lot of the reforms that Franz Joseph and his various parliaments tried to pass in the 1870s, 80s, 90s, and 1910s were constantly vetoed and curtailed by the Kingdom of Hungary, since they would apply to both Austria and Hungary. That's no longer the case. Secondly, the Hungarians, if anything goes wrong, can be thrown under the bus by the Austrians without too much problems. So you should probably expect the Hungarians to start squabbling with the Ottomans over the Balkans, which the Austrians are probably going to completely disavow, since their connection to the Balkans was, well, through the lands that Hungary controls. Austrian attention is now firmly focused northwards. I don't expect, as you see in a lot of these, that Austria and all of its lands are going to get folded into Germany. I don't think that's likely. At least not at first.
There goes the concept of Europe, if that ever occurs.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I think you're more likely to get a competition over it. So I think you're more likely to find a scenario whereby it's more likely going to be a scenario whereby parts of Germany that border Austria join an Austrian-German federation, and there's almost a competition between Prussia and Austria over who can organize a federation.
The problem you've got with that is that Austria literally just got its face slapped in for trying to do exactly that. Remember, the Austro-Prussian War in 1866 is the culmination of that whole thing. That's the end. It's the end of the contest, and the Prussians won. If the Austrians try to get back into that contest, the Prussians will not hesitate to slap them again. This time with more force.
Yeah, but there is a way they can spin it. Because the Prussians and their influence in North Germany is largely based on them being Protestant and Lutheranism. The Austrians are Catholic, and a lot of South Germany is Catholic.
Yes.
And when given the choice, the King of Bavaria and Bavarian people wanted to join Austria instead of Germany, despite the fact they ended up getting forced to join Germany. If Austria is able to reorient itself as being Catholic first, if Prussia does mount shelf to beat the shit out of them, there's a good chance that they end up screwing over their attempt to form Germany, because you've alienated the southern Catholic Germans.
There is also
and the Bavarians.
I think I see it, actually. Basically, what you've got is the unifying. Everything goes as normal until you get the Franco-Prussian War, and because you've now got an Austria that isn't dominated or half ruled by Hungarians, the unifying effect that Bismarck hoped for, where the various German states rally behind Prussia, will probably still occur, with the exception of perhaps Bavaria and some other southern German states who will probably at first declare neutrality and will put themselves under Austrian protection, saying, "Look, this isn't our war. We've got no quarrel with." So you'll get.
Isn't the Austro-Prussian War in 1866?
No, I said Franco-Prussian, the follow-on.
Yeah.
I know, but I'm just sort of like, why would things move on as the same?
That's the point of divergence. Yeah, because we just had that. That's what I just said.
If the Austrians
I was listening.
If the Austrians have lost Hungary before this point, before the Austro-Prussian Brothers Wars.
That is the war that's causing them to lose Hungary.
Yeah. So if they lose Hungary at that point, the Austrian government can reorientate itself to being German, because a lot of Austrians at this point do see themselves as German.
The problem...
And if you can pivot to trying to form a identity around being Catholic and German versus Protestant and German, yeah, you might be able to create two Germanys.
Although I think you might have a Danubian federation. I don't think you can get away with a German identity in the south, just because of the way in which Bismarck's going about it. There'll be a German Empire, and that will be basically that is the German Empire. The Austrians will achieve something similar, I reckon, but it will probably be a lot looser of an entity than the German Empire was.
Well, if they're losing Hungary, Austria's lost Hungary, Transylvania, Croatia, and Slovakia. The only part of the non-German lands they would end up retaining are Trieste and the Italian stuff.
Bohemia, Slovenia, and a Greater Austria.
Yes. And Bohemia...
This is the reason why I say it'd be a looser federation, because you basically take the Bavarians and the South Germans under your protection, not as integral parts of your nation, but as protected allies during the Franco-Prussian War. Then you try and leverage that, and you build sort of an alliance structure. And then basically you try and federalize the empire.
No.
To try and hold this fractious state together without the muscle of the Hungarian army behind you.
I think it's easier. I think it's easier than you think it is, and I think you're missing a trick, which I don't think if you're Catholic and you're going for Catholic Germans, what's the obvious thing you make claim you are?
No, you're not resurrecting the Holy Roman Empire, Alex. That's a dead entity.
It's not a dead entity at this point.
It is. By 1866, it's been dead for near on 50 years.
Yeah, Saxony, Baden-Württemberg, and Bavaria still have it, as mentioned, as part of their orders of consecration and creation for their leaderships at this point.
Yeah,
you can't resurrect the Holy Roman Empire. There's no.
You can claim the title. You can claim the title.
You're the Catholic German leader. You can claim the title.
I mean, I suppose, but.
And then you have in nicest way, you have God on your side.
And I mean, I suppose Bohemians, Slovenians were all Holy Romans at one point, rather than having to force themselves to be Austrians.
And what do you call the Prussians then? Instead of them calling their German Empire, what do you call them if you're resurrecting yourself as the Holy Roman Empire? How do you put them down?
You can't. They're stronger than you.
How do you put them down with words?
You have to...
You call them Protestants, heretics.
You call them Hanseatic League.
That's never going to...
Hanseatic.
That's just a flight of... That's never going to fly.
No, because that was actually a traditional war line, and there's been a fault line in Germany between the Hanseatic ones and the Catholic ones for a very, very long time.
Yes, but...
And if you spin it, you are the Catholic, you are the protectors of the Catholics, and they're the evil Hanseatics trying to take you over. It could actually disturbingly work.
Yeah, because fun fact, that was a line that held enough power to be a primary part of anti-Austrian propaganda in Austria by the 30s.
Yeah.
And the association was because the Hansa were the merchant bourgeoisie, basically, that they created this counter movement around, they're going to exploit us, they're going to do this and that, therefore keep them out the country.
Yeah. And you're clothing yourself in religion, you're making yourself the good guy, the defender. I mean, and then the evil. I mean, as long as calling themselves that, and as
long as you're careful with how you do it, as long as you're not openly referring to the German Empire as the Hanseatic League, because that will the Germans will come south and bash you again, and you won't win this time.
Yeah, and don't worry, Bismarck's already done that work for you. because in the 1840s, when Prussia solidifying its control over the Rhineland, which, despite being Protestant majority, was still very Catholic, they went down and they shut down all the Catholic universities and a lot of Catholic churches,
Yeah.
which royally pissed off the Catholic populations in Germany. If you pivot to this after the Prussians have done that, you've created a religious divide in Germany, which is going to torpedo Biscuit's attempts to unify Germany.
Not completely. He'll get Greater North Germany. He'll get most of the German Empire.
Nicest way, he possibly won't get even as far. He possibly will. I don't know if he'll even get Hungarian Hesse.
The problem is it's 1866, so the problem is it's far too late to actually stop Bismarck from achieving most of the German unification and founding some form of German imperial state. What you can do...
hasn't got Baden, Württemberg, and Bavaria.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. You can salvage those, but you're not getting anything else.
Yeah, but that is... You've got the southern Germany from Bavaria to Alsace-Lorraine.
Not Alsace-Lorraine itself. That'll become part of the German Empire following the Franco-Prussian War.
Well, it depends.
Yeah, but
what do you do?
It's going to cause a lot of issues.
In nice way, do you do during the Franco-Prussian War? Do you and the other Catholic power, the French, unite to defend the Catholic Germans from the Prussians?
Problem is, if you do that, the British will join on the German side, or the Russians
Will the British join? Will the British join on the German side?
If they don't, the Russians will.
Will the Russians for Protestants?
Yes, they will, because that's one of the things Bismarck had in his back pocket in case things did go south with the Franco-Prussian War. It's the reason why he sent Prussian troops into Poland to help crush a revolt in the Russian part of Poland.
Yeah.
Yes, but you forget the material circumstances of that is because Prussia was occupying and suppressing a massive Polish population. If the revolt in Russia succeeded, that revolt was spreading into German Prussia. Spreading into Prussia.
You are right.
And what religion was that revolt over? What religion are the Poles?
Catholic.
And what are the Russians?
Or Orthodox. Yes, that's...
So do the Russians want to actually make the nicest way under this scenario where you haven't got Hungary, you haven't got Austria sharing a border with Russia or bordering their territories, you've got them defending the Catholic groups, etc., and working out. Is it sensible for the Russians to find themselves in a war versus them? Because they might find themselves dealing with a Catholic Polish rebellion which is being supported by the Catholic powers.
That's not how 19th century politics. No, that's not.
Oh, it is.
It is.
That's not.
It's real politic. In a nice way, you use what you have at hand. You don't care about the religion. It's not the reason you're doing the things.
No, that's not what I mean.
You feed the public to get them on your side.
What I mean is, there's not going to be a revolt in Poland because
there was.
There was one.
Yeah, there was.
No, what I mean is, at this point in the 1870s, there's not going to be a revolt in Poland if Russia joins the war on the German side.
If we're talking in this case, we're not talking about the Germans. We're talking about the Hanseatic Protestant Germans trying to crush the Catholics.
Oh.
It doesn't even.
Just imagine this: if you're the Catholic powers and you get the Pope on your side and you get every priest across Poland reading out a sermon talking about the evils of what the Protestants are doing again, and reigniting the religious wars by persecuting the Catholics.
Yeah,
even if the threat of that is enough to keep the Russians out, unfortunately, the British cannot allow the Prussians to be crushed. That would lead to
they won't allow them to be crushed.
A new French.
They won't allow them to be. That doesn't mean they have to get involved on their side. They just have to stop them being crushed.
Well, that would require them getting involved because
no, it doesn't.
But also, are the British going to allow the Russians to become hegemonic in Europe?
Well, the Russians getting involved.
Of course not.
The Russians don't have an angle.
has to come in swinging to save Germany, that's put Germany in a subservient position to Russia.
Which is problematic for Britain.
And if Russia's got domination over and functionally no threats in Central Europe, they've dealt with the threats in Northern Europe, and the British and the Russians are still clashing heads over the Turks, the British are going to be looking at the Russians and going, you deal with Germany, you're coming south to the Turks, and we don't want you fucking with the Turks.
I disagree, given that
Because
we
then we're
already
next
have...
in India.
I disagree, given we already have precedent for what happened the last time Russia had a great power in its debt. The great power did nothing. That was Austria. And there's no reason to believe that that the British would think that a stronger Germany is going to be more subservient to Russia than the Austrian Empire was.
The thing is, the British would actually probably do their best to stop any conflict happening and breaking out between and tell the Germans to not have a war. Why? Because they also have their own Catholic problem.
Well, yeah, that would be
Hello, Island. How are you?
So this is the reality of the scenario: is that the moment this starts becoming a religious conflict, which is what the only viable grounds for Austria to survive it is to make it into a religious conflict.
I mean, if it wants to absorb Germany, yes. If it wants to remain as the Austrian Empire, it can survive.
No.
As the Austrian Empire. No, it can. Without the...
No.
If it doesn't try and eat some of Germany, it's going to get absorbed by Germany.
I disagree. Even with just Greater Austria, Bohemia, and Slovenia, and the Italian states it still retains, that's still a nation it's no longer part of the Great Powers Club, but it's still it's a more unitary state than it was when the Hungarians were involved. Given that the parts of the empire it's retained are some of the least fractious and most content with Habsburg rule as it stands up until about 1902, when the ideas of nationalism really... No, the point I was making is that you've now turned the Austrian Empire into, instead of being the weakest of the great powers, it's now a nation on par with probably its still chief rival, the Italians.
No, it's not.
Nope.
Lately, it's lost 70% of its population.
Yep.
No offense.
Plus all the industrial capabilities as well is lost.
No, it hasn't.
It's still got a lot of it in the form of the Czechs.
Yeah, it's retained.
How long but it's going to be a Poland situation. What happened when Poland lost a third to half of its population? It got partitioned, then it got partitioned, then it got absorbed. Because von Horsens, who ruled Germany, lay claim to the throne of Bohemia, and they still maintain that claim until they lose power, technically, and they still hold it today, which goes back to the Bohemian emperors of the Holy Roman Empire. They still have that claim because monarchs are pedantic.
Yes, they are.
So you give the Prussians a chance, and a weak Austria, they're going to take Bohemia because they have a claim on the throne.
Yep.
So, and if you think Italy, after unification, isn't coming for the northern Istria and Tyrol,
you're a very nice soul.
Then God bless you. And when you're just Austria, you've now got a smaller population and economy than Bavaria, and Bavaria got eaten by Germany with little fanfare. What do you think is going to happen to Austria? Especially, and maybe if you're lucky, if you're able to keep your hands on it, Galicia Valdezia gets taken by the Russians. Or it becomes an absolute pain because it's majority Polish and the Hungarians can't hold it. And a Polish state becoming independent in the heart of Europe in the 1860s,
Is
based out of
non-viable.
Krakow.
Is non-viable for anybody, and that'll be crushed.
Yes.
But who crushes it is going to decide a lot of power.
I've just realised it's not going to be Austria that's going to become the power of the Balkans. It's going to be Hungary after they've finished dogpiling Austria with everyone else.
No, Hungary collapses.
Yeah.
Because without the Austrians, the Croatians make up over 50% of the population.
Oh yeah, Hungary's just a massive mess.
Hungary's going to be a civil war.
Yeah, Hungary's going to implode. Because the Poles are going to want out, the Ukrainians are going to want out, the Romanians are going to want out, and the Croats are going to want out. And the Serbs are going to want unification with Serbia, and Bosnia's going to be Bosnia. You've taken out the moderate influence, which the Austrians were.
I know.
And all those spinning plates Metternich used by playing the Hungarians against the Croats, and the Croats against the Serbs, and the Romanians against the Ukrainians, and the Poles against everybody. That's going to come back to bite Hungary in the ass.
Brackman asks, I came across this ship on YouTube. What do you think about it? Oh, the Königsberg class from Orion Arm. Oh, I do love the Orion Arm. What if you transplant human nations from the Second World War into space? Love it. Love it. Great. It's a fantastic piece of world building, and it's a very, very, very nice, well-designed ship. Gives clear... You can tell it's a modern sci-fi capital ship, but it's also very clearly... for example, its primary armament isn't the big gun turrets you can see. It's VLS cells.
That's still a lot of big gun turrets.
Yeah. And it's only a cruiser. It's only a heavy cruiser. It's not even a dreadnought, a battle cruiser, or a battleship. but it does go to show, like, it's supposed to be an overseas asset as well. So it's also belongs not only to the Kriegsmarine, but to the Reichskolonialbund and the Zollerngeschütz. So it's probably why it's also got its own organic air wing. It's basically designed to go over there and be over there, but also be a fleet unit as well, and a flagship for smaller squadrons. It's a really well world-built asset. Someone has clearly sat down and thought, okay, in the world we've built, what do you need to do this? To be the most modern this. And then they've gone and done it. And they've built this very, very, very well-designed, clearly well thought out. I'm not going to put the image up because I think it is copyrighted, so please go and have a look at the Königsberg class heavy cruiser Orion Arm if you want to have a look at it. Yeah, and also it's just good, solid world building, and there's not much more to say on it than that.
That's a lot of guns.
Well, yeah, but it's not surprising, given the size of the thing it is. Douglas Yachty asks, during the time of World War II, which capital ships and carriers of the IJM would have enough size to be able to pass through the Suez Canal? I assume you mean wouldn't be too big, given that there's no bottom size limit on passing through the Suez Canal. As far as I'm aware.
There is.
During wartime?
Yes, there is.
So you couldn't move... So if the IJN said, if they were allied to the British and said, can we move a minesweeper through the Suez Canal? The British would say no.
Well, no, the British would look at them and go, okay, so to get all the larger ships through the Suez Canal, what we have to do is we have to unload fuel, unload water, unload ammunition here. Well, we have to train it down to there. Then this is a complicated procedure which the British can do because they have the same logistics at both ends.
Yeah, that's what
you then have to clarify if the IJN vessel is going to use the same logistics. It's not just a case of saying yes or no. It's a case of can we actually do it with the
Alex, you didn't listen to what I said.
Yes.
What I said was there's no lower size limit, because that's how the question's phrased. I assume he meant what you just said. That's why I asked you. There's no lower size limit, is there, Alex? There's no, if you are this small or smaller, you cannot pass through the Suez Canal.
Oh, in wartime, they actually got into trouble with some of the small ships, and they barged them through because they were causing too much trouble, taking up a whole sea lane for all those vessels. Again, it's the space of the barge.
Yeah, that was my question. Not like obviously I was aware of the whole offloading supplies in order to make a ship light and to fit through. That would be the thing basically. Do the Japanese have access to that? If so, then in theory, I think the only ships that are just hard nose to be able to fit through canal would probably be the Shikakus, the Yamatos, and the Taihos. I think anything else is of equivalent size and displacement that if you allowed them the same privileges that the British have, there's no reason why you couldn't move most of the Imperial Japanese Navy's assets through the Suez Canal. Obviously, you wouldn't move all of them at once, but I'm talking in terms of individual ships you could pick at a glance to move through the canal.
Trying to figure out why you're saying the Shikakos can't go through.
I thought they drew quite a bit more draft than the Japanese carriers before them, given they're a fair bit heavier than the Hiryus.
Yeah, the maximum draft of the Suez Canal in this period.
I was just hedging my bets because I know they're significantly heavier than the Hiryus and Soryus. I'm just thinking
their draft under deep low is 30 foot. They can do less than that under light load and light conditions, and as long as they can clear about 20 foot, they can get through. And frankly, that can probably be done.
Yeah, but the Yamatos, I think we're both in agreement. That's just no. Do not even attempt. Do not even attempt.
Well, the thing is,
Kaga has a deeper draft than the Shokakus.
Yeah. Yamato's draft is only 36 foot at full load, so you could possibly do it if you could take off a lot of the ammunition at that time. The modern Suez Canal has a draft of 66 foot because they've dredged it out quite a lot.
Dredging.
It's been made a lot deeper. Basically there were there were some interesting bits which were less capable at this point. Because, believe it or not, blasting out a long canal doesn't give you necessarily uniform depth the entire long way along. You'd be surprised at that. Yes. Sorry, I have a complaining poodle who's demanding that I bend over and pat him. And if I stop, he starts crying. So if I sound weird, it's because I am literally bent double at the moment. Because he's decided to position himself in the most difficult place to be patted in the entire room.
Right,
Poodles.
and that is it for the questions for this week. So now we come to Fleet Judges a Warship Design Contest. Yay! Spontaneous cheering.
Well,
let me see. If
I just need to clarify something, Fox. So was it during the portion of the thing last week where he started talking about how something was better than the 12-inch gun was better than the 14-inch gun or something like that?
You can bring that up now again if you want.
No, I'm just here to just check if that comes up again. You know, I might have the various stats loaded up on my screen from my Excel spreadsheet of various guns.
that was Friday, not Monday.
Oh, it was still last week.
And look,
it was still last week.
But also, I am kind of curious because I was kind of spitballing. But I know it's not better than I know it's clearly not better than the King George V's 14s. But I'm fairly certain that in terms of ballistics and arm penetration, the 12-inch that the Gangets had was at least equal to the early marks of the Vickers 14-inch.
No. Not ones which are being fitted to dreadnoughts.
Fair enough. There you are. Happy to be corrected. Anyway, so
Basically, the thing is, go just to ask yourself, are the Gangets guns as good as the Congos? Because that's the 14-inch gun you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yes. Or are you doing a mistake people do when comparing the Alaska's 12-inch to the Nevada's 14-inch, where they're taking the figures from the Nevada's 14-inch of the shells without their ballistic caps, which massively reduces their penetrative capability. No.
Also, the other small problem that the Russian 12-inch guns had was in their maintenance. Their recoil was atrociously maintained, and they had a habit of, when they fired a full servo, they had a habit of occasionally unseating the entire turret.
Poor Gangets, long suffering, bless them. And I do have a soft spot for those lovely flat-ironed things.
I know you do, but there again, your favorite is probably the Italian equivalent of them.
Oh God,
or
no.
rather the Italian one they're based on.
No, not at all.
You don't like the Dante Alighieri?
It's not that I don't like her. It's just that I much prefer the way the Russian ships look compared to how Dante Alighieri looks. I like the forward step up of the bow that you get, not on the Gangets, on the Black Sea version, the Imperizia Marias. I like that forward step up, that raised foredeck. I think it looks funky.
That's certainly something you can say about it. It looks funky.
Hey, personal preference isn't a matter of right or wrong. It just is. Anyway, so a couple of weeks ago, I was awake one night and I had an idea. Well, why don't I ask the...
Can I just please stop it? You were awake one night and you were presumably thinking about this while in bed, okay?
No,
I'm just clarifying this.
No.
I don't want to hear about your dirty dreams.
No, I was still awake. And also
Okay.
stop it. Also stop it. Time and a place, this isn't it. The time and a place for good-natured banter, this isn't it. Well, not that much anyway. So, basically, the whole thing was you have to present a fictional account and an image, if you wish, of a warship of your own creation. You have to include specifications and a decent length blurb with the ship's history and notable events. So, no prizes, but just a nice little test. And people really did come out and support it. So, we're going to work through as we go. So the first thing we're going to get through is I'm going to bring up Discord in if it'll let me, and it will. Good. And we're going to go through. So the first one entry was from Timu. And his entry is the RSV Needle of Deterrence. Warship rowing boat, littoral micro combatant, nicknamed the most overarmed thing in the archipelago. Concept: a hand-rowed craft built around one idea. If you can hide a credible combat system in something that looks like a tourist gift, you could show up. Anywhere quietly, cheaply, and embarrassingly close. Yield class microcombatant, foam core composite hull with bolt-on stabilizing outriggers, length 7.2 meters, beam 1.4 meters, 4.1 with outriggers deployed, draft 35 centimeters, displacement 3.8 tons light, 6.2 tons combat loaded. So 2 crew, coxswaining systems, a plus gunner and loader, 1 optional passenger, usually a mission specialist. Primary, twin carbon oars, yes, actually rowing. Secondary, silent electric pod, short burst for docking and escape. Combat road, ballast auto trim plus outrigger lock to keep the boat from turning into modern art. Speed, range, 8 knots rowing sprint for about as long as Pride lasts. 3 knots endurance, 45 nautical miles in calm water. Electric, 6 to 10 nautical miles, depending on how optimistic the batteries feel. Sensors, compact, search radar and a folding mast. Actually, yes, you can all read all this. I'm sorry. Armament: 1 Bofors 57mm deck gun, compact mount, limited ammunition. 1 Mark 41 VLS, single 8-cell tactical length unit, integrated amidship, sealed and buoyancy compensated. Soft kill, smoke, decoy canisters, and the oldest tactic of them all, looking too stupid to be real. Magazine loadout: 40 to 60 ready rounds for the 57mm. I'm questioning that. That seems like too many. VLS mission dependent. Usually short ranged or land attack for science. Protection, nothing worth bagging about. The needle of deterrence began as a joke in the procurement office and as a classified line item with a very serious budget code. After a string of exercises proved that large combatants were increasingly predictable in shallow island choked waters, someone asked an unserious question with serious consequences. What's the smallest thing we could put a real VLS into and still float? The prototype was built in a small coastal workshop, better known for racing shells than naval craft. Engineers solved the stability by giving it folder outriggers and an auto-trim ballast system that constantly fought the laws of physics. First sea trials, remember the boat didn't capsize. The crew reported that turning the radar mass felt like wrestling a parking meter in a storm. Notable events: the harbour incident during a demonstration visiting Brass. The coxswain rode the needle into the harbour with a calm confidence of the person who hadn't read the risk assessment. The patrol crafted up to the routine-like intercept until the needle raised its radar mass, slewed its EOIR ball, politely requested clearance on an encrypted channel. The intercepting crew later described the moment as being mugged by a canoe. Exercise Shallow Spear. Operating in a clustered archipelago, the needle spent 6 hours stationary in an area disguised with a drab cover and a fake fishing rig. When the exercise enemy drones appeared, the boat's shore-linked fire control assigned targets, and the needle executed a scripted VLS engagement. The evaluation report was blunt, the platform was absurd, but the kill chain worked. The rowing gunfight myth. A story spread that the boat had fired its 57mm gun while the crew kept rowing to maintain heading. Unofficially, this never happened. Unofficially, the gunner keeps a splintered orb mounted over his wall like a hunting trophy, and nobody asks follow-up questions. That was very unique, and I suppose it does technically fit the definition of a warship.
Hang on, there are 2 more lines.
What? Oh. Reputation. Among sailors, the needle is viewed with equal parts awe and irritation. It's too small to respect, too capable to ignore, and too quiet to reliably track. Enemy crews call it a floating punchline. Friendly crews call it a tax audit because once it shows up, everyone suddenly behaves. And that was the needle of deterrence. Okay. Okay. Chair has... Okay, so Duke of Penticton has provided an armored cruiser plus midlife refit, but unfortunately he is disqualified because he hasn't provided any specifications or any information on the ship's service life or its history. So, unfortunately, that has to be disqualified. Next is from Zubikaku, who provides us with the Owari class battleship. Standard load, design displacement 32,000 tons. Standard load actual 38,000 tons. Full load 49,000 tons. Propulsion 210,000 shaft horsepower for 32 knots. 222 meters long, 35 meters wide, 10.6 meters draft. Armament final loadout in Japanese service 1945. 12 41 centimeter 45 caliber third year main guns in 4 triple turrets. 16 10 centimeter 65 caliber type 98 guns in 8 twins. 8 14 centimeter 50 caliber third year type guns in that doesn't make sense. How can you have 8 guns in 4 single casemates? Interesting.
Unless it's 4 casemates per side.
Yes, that might be. Yeah, that's fair enough. And 102 34x3. So that's 34 triple mounts, 25mm.
Excusez-moi?
That's what you would expect from a late war capital ship, funnily enough, in Japanese service. That's not really surprising.
Yeah, true.
Armor belt. 356mm belt, 155mm deck, 510mm turret face, 308mm barbettes, 350 conning tower, all nothing armor scheme, torpedo bulge, plus integrated belt, aircraft, 2 spotters, and 3 scouts. Electronics, 2 Type 32 surface radar. This is obviously in 1945, not as built. Detection plus fire control, 4 Type 33 surface radar, detection plus fire control of secondaries, 2 Type 21 air radar for detection, and 2 E-27 radio impulse detectors. RWF/RWR. So before we go into the history, because this is the first ship that is approaching plausible historicalness, I'm going to now turn to my colleagues on the panel, but specifically to the gentleman over there with the poodle in his lap, to discuss the ship's specs. Is this something that Japan could build instead of, say, the Yamatos?
Okay, before we start, I've just got a quick question.
Yep.
Did you get mine?
When
It
did
ain't
you
in the chat, so
when did you send it?
Because I was supposed to have sent it to you when we were playing Hoi.
Ah, it's not
Look, ain't
here
in the
then,
chat,
I'm
so it ain't there.
afraid.
Right, it's okay. I'll rewrite it up and send it to you.
Send it in the general chat. That's where they're meant to be. So anyway, so Dr.
Right.
Clark, the Owari class battleship in general chat. What do you make of it?
I'm having fun looking at it from all. Sorry, I'm a bit distracted. And hopefully I spelled Owari correctly to go back to it.
Owari.
A-W-A-I R-I?
Owari.
Ah, I kept putting an A instead of it. Okay. And let's see. It looks an interesting vessel to me.
Question is, could they have? This is for a little bonus points thing. Could the Japanese have historically built this ship instead of, say, building the Yamato, since that seems to be the premise of what I'm reading? And could they have built 6 of them?
If they've got enough time, yes. They could have built them, and they could have built it. There's nothing technologically there they can't come. It's going to be infrastructure, and it's going to be time to actually build it. That's the issue they've got.
Yeah.
So but they could do it.
So here we go. Here's the actual thing that sheds more light on the actual history of the ships. Okay. Made as a cheaper and treaty-compliant kinda alternative to our historical Yamato class, the Owari class consisted of 6 battleships: Owari, Echigo, Kai, Iga, Mikawa, and Mino. Often known as the Warlord class by U.S. intelligence due to the ships being called Nobunaga, Uesugi, Takeda, Iga-Iki, Tokugawa, and Saito in U.S. intel documents. 4 of the 6 battleships were completed before the start of World War II, and 2 were finished before the Battle of Midway and the initiation of the Guadalcanal campaign, respectively. Okay, so 1 was finished for Midway, 1 was finished for the Guadalcanal campaign. That's doable. There's more dockyards that can fit them compared to the Yamatos. They're 49,000 tons, not 70,000.
And they've got 12 16-inch guns, decent ones, and they've got 32 knots of speed, so they're actually going to be freaking scary.
Yeah, so let's see what they... Okay, so, their impressive speed as well as heavy AA armament allowed them to properly replace the Congo-class battlecruiser, which were relegated to more second-line duties. We know what that means, running around with the Japanese light cruisers having a whale of a time. Godspeed. The ships were extremely tough and well-armed. During the many battles around Guadalcanal, Owari, Ichigo, Kai, and Iga would perform most of the operations which the 4 Congo-class battleships did historically. After first Guadalcanal, which, ironically enough, I reckon if the Congos are on second-line duties, it would be funny if one of the Congos was at first Guadalcanal. That would have been funny. It took about 12 waves from exhausted pilots of the Cactus Air Force and what was left of USS Enterprise's group to take down Iga, whose heavy AA defense, especially for a Japanese battleship, downed many aircraft. Owari herself would face down Admiral Lee, and that would end in a draw, with South Dakota having been sunk and Owari and Washington heavily damaged for their part. At the Battle of the Philippine Sea, the fast battleship wing, comprising of Owari, Kai, Ichigo, Mikawa, Mino, Kongu, Haruna, Hiei, and Kirishima, would face off once again with Admiral Lee's battle force in the dead of night. The battle would be an indecisive engagement, as it was a distraction to allow the crippled Japanese carriers to get away. During the battle, moderate damage was suffered throughout both fleets, but once again Lee would meet his match. The biggest sortie of the Owari class came at Leyte Gulf, where the fast wing would sortie again. Nagato is with Nishimura. During the... Okay, so the center force is all 30-knot plus ships. So that means the Nagatos, Nagato, Mutsu, Fuso, and Issei are in the south, which is... That's going to be an interesting... That's going to be an interesting fight in Surigao Strait. During the massive air raids, the newer Mikawa would become the subject of attention, probably because the Japanese ran out of dark paint and she stood out the most and was sunk by an overwhelming air attack. The Battle of Surigao Strait played out like it did historically, with an added casualty, Nagato. Oh no, of course, because Mutsu's not there because she blew up. However, with the Battle of Samoa would be far less clusterfuck, as with 8 battleships, the Japanese would just sweep the Taffys out of the way, only then to be caught by the Bull Run force. 2 Iowa-class battleships and several other cruisers would catch the Japanese as they were leaving the area. Even against the superior fire control of the Iowa-class, 8 Japanese battleships would utterly obliterate them through the sheer weight of firepower. The Bull Run would be foiled, and Admiral Halsey would most likely be killed aboard USS New Jersey. Well, at least he's not going to sail into any typhoons. The last
There's
time,
a small problem I'm seeing with this write-up, but carry on.
the last time the IJN would sortie their modern battleships would be at Okinawa. With Kongo sunk by a submarine, the IJN would be down to 7 fast battleships. Using up the last of the Imperial Navy's fuel reserves, the 10 Go force would sortie as one final attempt to engage the US fleet, combined with a mass Kikusui kamikaze ready to do as much damage as possible. The Kongo class suffered the most during this engagement, with Kai and Mino being heavily damaged as well. The US pilots faced the heaviest wall of AA they've ever seen, as the Awaris have been outfitted with the Lewis fire control radars for their AA guns. Admiral Lee is forced to engage in battle one last time against his nemesises. While no longer outnumbered, the Awaris are much tougher than any Kongo class would be, and while a majority are disabled before they reached Okinawa, it is Owari herself who is beached at Okinawa, outwitting Lee once more. She would be taken by force by US Marines at the end of the battle, but ultimately salvaged, refloated, and repaired by the US Navy. So strong was the interest in the battleship that gave the US such a headache that technical studies were done against the ship post-war. The US Navy, realizing that the hull itself was just as capable as the Iowa class, if not more, decided to keep Owari and instate her into US service along with the rest of the Iowa class. She would be renamed USS Willis Lee in honor of her rival after his untimely demise during the war. Along with Wisconsin and Missouri, she would be a show of force in Reagan's Navy, and in the 1990s she would be decommissioned and placed in reserve. With Wisconsin and Missouri joining their fast battleship cousins as museums, Owari will be put on the chopping block to be scrapped. That is until Japan offered to buy her back for $3.23 billion. She now stands as a museum in Kure as a memorial to all who served aboard her, Japanese and American, and as a testament to the strong friendship of Japan and the US after the war. And I need to breathe.
Okay.
I do have a few things. Actually, you first, Dr. Clark, then I'll say what I've got to say.
Well, my main problem is apparently the Americans knew about these things and they didn't change any of their building plans or any of their construction. And that seems unlikely. If you've got these things coming up and you've got any idea how dangerous they're going to be, you're going to start doing some adaptations to deal with them, if that makes sense.
Just a question, Alex. Didn't they think the Yamatos were going to be 30-plus knot ships with 9 16-inch guns?
No, the British thought they were going to be 17.5-inch guns, or 17 to 17.5-inch guns and 28-knot ships. The Americans thought they were going to be 25-knot ships and 17-inch guns.
Right. Okay. So that's not equivalent. That was only going to be my point. Yeah, but no, that's fine. There is no direct comparison historically. So so they should have changed their building plans.
Yeah, that's the thing. And the thing is also, the number is, you've got not 2 of them, but 4. So if that many more have entered service,
and more Alex, coming, you've got 6.
You got 6. Well, no, you got 4 before the war, haven't you?
Oh yeah, 4 before the war.
So, in nicest way, at that point, that pace of construction, both Britain and America are going to shove that, sped up their construction. So the British, in nicest way, Anson and Howe might well be lions rather than King George V's, because of timeline, and they're wanting parity. The Americans will have also been wanting parity and pushing their ships up as well. So you might have seen potentially the Carolinas have 2 more ships in their class, something like that. Because and I suppose the Americans and the Brits, neither of them play a nice game of them wanting parity, and their easiest methodology of avoiding parity is, as you're building, to just build more, and they can build more.
I also have something to say in regards to the post-war thing. While it is a nice post-war story, the USN is not. The USN is going to examine her, but they're definitely not going to take her into service. She's a one-off ship for which parts are relatively unavailable for. And yes, while the loss of 2 Iowas hurts during the war, their replacements are on the stocks. There are 2 Iowas on the stocks you can finish to replenish your numbers of fast battleships.
And that's only if they're going by historical build, not by what they're probably building in this timeline. It's a case of no, they would have. They've got other things to do.
Atom bomb. It's atom bomb time.
Yes, although without quite the full-out level of relish you just exhibited.
Yeah. So we have a special guest now to actually read out the entry that he created, and it is quite frankly one of the most creative of any of the entries, because it was made in a program that had nothing to do with naval development.
What's
This is the Central Battery Ironclad Disenchantment, and I now hand over to its creator, Garden Chair, to tell us a bit about the ship.
right? Yes, the Central Battery Ironclad Disenchantment. Do you want me to just read the whole text?
Yes, please,
file off?
because I'll be following along with the.
Right. Okay. Let me go and find it for a second. Okay. So, Central Battery, she was designed. Well, the design is mainly blamed on the 13th Ironclad Commission. But you'll hear more about them later. Built in the Royal Dockyard at Stanmouth, laid down the 2nd of June 1877. She was launched on the 4th of December 1885, commissioned 8th of March 1889, and was wrecked on the 1st of January 1890. She's 200 feet long, 40 foot wide, 18 feet draft, displaces about 1,800 tons. She has two shafts powered by inverted vertical triple expansion, two inverted vertical triple expansion engines, generating about 2,500 horsepower. She can make about 14.5 knots under steam and sail. She has a 5.25 inch belt, 3/4 inch deck plating, and 8 inches over the central battery. Her main armament comprises of two deck-mounted 108-pound Mark IV rifled guns, and her central battery is 6 82-pound Mark II rifled guns. She also has a complement of light repeating rifles as well, sort of like Gardner guns essentially, but funny little proto-machine guns. If we start the very long preamble, the Stanford Parliament woke up on the afternoon of the 30th of July 1866 by a small man in a funny uniform waving around his hat and shouting at them a bit. They later found out he was the first Sea Lord. He pointed out that he'd been trying to get their attention for the last few days, but hadn't been able to do it so far. He'd laid out that there'd been a great naval battle between Austria and Italy. Apparently, those are two insignificant countries in Europe, but we don't really care about them. On the 20th of July, and ironclad warships took a prevalent role, and that made him think about the ships in the Stanford fleet and go, no, they're not ready. We're not ready to fight a naval war at the minute with our 3 rowing boats and a light and an underarmed cutter. The Parliament, not quite realising what they'd done, voted him some money and a commission, the first Ironclad Commission, to investigate the matter and to shut him up so they could go back to their sleep. When they woke up the next day, they did realise that they had accidentally spent some money. So they needed to sort of get a few backbenchers and some other random people to just sort of make the whole thing go away by shutting down the old, by sort of just cocking up the commission. I mean, it was a reasonable enough idea. They did cock it up, but not quite how they wanted it to. The first 3 commissions basically did nothing, but sort of tried to pass the buck on to the next commission. Although, unfortunately, they did set up a trend of just whenever something went wrong, they'd just make another commission. The 4th and 5th commissions decided that they should try some designing, so they used what they were given, some bits of paper, and made little origami boats. Didn't really work out much. The 6th commission decided that the ship should be at least 3 foot long, which, you know, for an ironclad's probably what you need. The 7th commission, we don't quite know what they were doing, but they went with an upper bound of 1/2 mile. And again, that was deemed reasonable that the ship should be somewhere between those 2 parameters. The 7th commission decided... the 8th commission, sorry, in a very rare stroke of genius, went out and actually measured the dockyards at Stanmouth to figure out the how big of a ship they could actually build. And so that's how they solidified on the 200-foot beam. The Ninth Commission thought, well, these things are called ironclads, we'll figure it out, and they just sort of built a hull form out of pure iron and sank promptly into the parliamentary duck pond, to be seen again. 10th Commission went around looking for some experts and found a primary school teacher who was willing to teach them about buoyancy, which made them realise that actually there should be some internal space in the damn thing. No one's quite sure what happened to the 11th Commission because the secretary who was running it sort of seemed to be so disenchanted with the whole experience that he scribbled that disenchantment on the bit of paper, and then that was submitted as the entire findings of the 13th Commission. Sorry, of the 11th Commission, which is how she came with the name Disenchantment, because that's what they thought. They thought that was what they wanted to name the damn thing. That was the only finding of the 12th Commission ratifying what Disenchantment as the name chosen by the 11th Commission. The 13th Commission left a boot print and circled some on the main design sheets, and circled a few items in the Linfield Marine Equipment and Whale Emporium catalogue. And these were sort of checked, and these then were decided to be the general hull form and also the machinery that was going to go aboard her. The 14th Commission is basically sort of just working out the details of the surprisingly garbled instructions they were given from the 13th, and that's why, and with the 13th basically coming up with the hull form, they're the ones who were blamed primarily for the mess that was to follow. The 15th Commission managed to get enough information down that they began construction. So, in Number 2 Dock at the Royal Dockyard in Stanmouth, on the 2nd of June 1877, they laid the first plates for the keel. 3 days later, when laying down moorlets of the keel, they hit the dry dock doors, realising that in fact, whoever had measured the dry docks hadn't done it properly, and the dry docks were only 150 feet long. Thus, a 5-year programme of dockyard improvements was carried out to find the extra 50 feet required to improve the docks, to actually fit the Disenchantment. Construction was resumed on the 3rd of September 1882, 5 years later, once they'd actually dug out enough material to lay out the full length of the keel. Progress continued steadily-ish on the construction, with the 15th through 22nd Ironclad Commissions all having various fingers in the pot, skimming certain amounts of monies off the top, and generally being a nuisance to the whole procedure. But thankfully, on the 20th of November 1885, the plans were starting to be laid down for the launching ceremony, and the ship was to be launched on the 25th of November by the 4th Duchess of Pilkington. On that day, the bottle of champagne that was to be broken on her bows missed, came off the rope, and disappeared into the crowd. It was never seen again, and everyone agreed this ship already had enough bad luck. It can't get that much worse. Unfortunately, she parted her lines as she went down the slips and shot straight across onto the opposite bank of the River Stann. It took several days of intensive work with steam shovels and basically getting every shunting loco in the dockyard on the other bank, coupling them together and pulling the damn thing off the bank. This then it was completed on the 4th of December, and this is why she's commonly accepted that this was actually the date of her launching, as she spent more than 5 minutes afloat.
I'm going to need you to write a comedy TV show based off this, please and thank you.
Unfortunately, they just got her mid-river, and they were performing some inspections to make sure that she hadn't managed to hole herself on the other bank when the river froze. and she was trapped mid-river for the winter of 1885 and 1886. Over the just after the Parliament had returned from the winter break of 85-86, they realised, hang on, that giant metal Hulk floating in the river, we're paying for that. Oh dear God. And that had actually drained most of the military budget over the past 20 years, predominantly through corruption and skimming and the likes of that. Similarly, also the press had noticed the whole fanfare of her launching, and they were starting to ask questions.
Oh no, shocking.
Thus, the 24th Ironclad Commission was hurriedly convened in March of 1886 to actually go about getting this ship some better equipment than what was ostensibly 20-year-old designs and plans that were originally meant for her fitting out. This is how she came up with 2 multiple expansion engines, because she was originally going to have quite a multi-cylinder trunk engine instead, which was an interesting choice. This commission was chaired by the Lord Hethelsthwaite, who bought several Hethelsthwaite repeating rifles from his cousin's company for the price each of £827, 7 shillings and 8 pence. This new plant and weaponry took her a while to be fitted out with, so they were completed on the 3rd of January 1889, where she then began sea trials. During these trials, she attained a max speed of 15.2 knots, although one of her Jenkins patent boilers ruptured. A lot of this has been deleted from the official archives, but it was discovered that in fact these boilers were never repaired. They just sealed off that boiler room and derated her to four boilers rather than the 6 she was originally built with, thus dropping her maximum speed to about 14 knots or so. So she was officially accepted into naval service on the 8th of May 1889. And deployed on a circumnavigation of the country as part of the publicity tour. Guests only had to pay 1 shilling to visit the vessel, although they did have to pay 4 shillings and 6 pence to get off it again. Otherwise, they would have been pressed into naval service. And this did have a reasonable effect of paying for the extortionate costs of her production. On the 24th of August, she was joined by the screw sloops Blythe and Stanfordshire, and began her first naval exercises in the Bay of Ingby. Here she underwent gunnery trials with her new 108-pound guns, and they hit with splinters targets up to 300 feet away. Although tests of her secondary steering controls proved to be unsuccessful. Unfortunately, this was also an unplanned test of her secondary steering capabilities when one of her rudder lines parted, and she went. But she did successfully test her ram bow when she sank the sloop Blythe by cleaving her in 2. After the exercise come to an end, she was taken back into the Royal Dockyard at Stanmouth for dry docking to realign her ram bow after it had been significantly bent after striking the Blythe's trunk engine. The captain was also dismissed after this, because he was at inquiry made the claims that charts were a liberal myth and that he won't conform to the ideas of big compass.
I've said it before. I need this as a comedy TV show. I need it.
We've got
I
to
want
give
a
this to
pilot
Drax.
episode
This is
script on
Drax
my
April
desk
Fool's
by
video.
Friday.
This is Drax April Fool's video this year. We've got to give it to him. Carry on.
Right. She received a new captain, Sir. What do they call him? Sir Hugh Chumley Bucket. Sorry, it's pronounced Bouquet. And he took command of the ship on Christmas Day, 1889. Unfortunately, all the rest of the information about the ship's stories has been taken from eyewitness accounts because her logs did not survive after Christmas Day, 1889. She put to sea on Boxing Day, allegedly meandering down the River Stan like a drunk stumbling down a back alley, tacking from bank to bank whilst under purely steam power. She was next seen hove to off Linfield on New Year's Eve, where sounds of partying came from her long into the night. At around 10:20 in the evening, the ship was seen to be steaming hard towards the pleasure pier, with a shout heard from the vessel, "We're going to buzz the pier." Steaming at an estimated 11 knots, Disenchantment struck the pleasure pier just south of the ballroom, cutting off the revellers inside. She continued on and ran hard aground just 200 yards to the east of the donkey rides. And this was at around 11:30, 10 to midnight. During the great countdown to the striking of the year 1890, they believed a fire of some sort must have broken out in her forward 108-pound magazine, because as the clock struck midnight, her forward magazine detonated, and she was her back was broken. We know almost the exact time that she did explode, because one of her Heffelthwaite repeating rifles was thrown at the local church and jammed in the clock mechanism at exactly midnight. Not long after, the industrious residents of Linfield dramatically aided the salvage operation of the ship by stripping her. News was sent to the Admiralty, and an inspector arrived by train at 5:23 in the morning to find the skeleton of the ship and a few odd bits and pieces buried in the sand. As even though eyewitnesses do report that the ship was relatively intact, apart from the big hole in the forward end, after the explosion, but had been stripped almost completely for scrap iron. With the conclusion of the inquiry into her loss, the 25th Ironclad Commission voted to cover up as much as they possibly could, destroy as many documents as they could find, which wasn't a lot. They weren't looking very hard, and sort of slunk off into ignominy. To this day, what remains of Disenchantment is one of her 108-pound guns buried muzzle down in the sand, just to the west of the pier. And in various town museums across the country, you can find the supposed bottle of champagne that was lost during her launching ceremony in 1885. So that is the story of the Central Battery car, the very long and long-winded but short career story of the Central Battery Ironclad Disenchantment.
Well done. Well done.
I do apologise that you all had to listen to that.
I'm sure I could not apologise.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Clark, as a small, somewhat long to build Central Battery Ironclad, it's not the worst thing you've ever seen, even if it is a little bit obsolete on commissioning.
Honestly, it's not that far off some of the historical stories. There really isn't enough separation between it and the history for me to be comfortable commenting too much. For fear of the patron questions I will then get about the various historical ironclads. I'm never quite sure where Runon and Perchington are lurking, so I have to be careful.
Okay, let's have a look. So I can't tell if this from Akazuki is an entry or not.
And unlike me, I'm fairly sure Fleet doesn't have an alternate account on Patreon that he can submit questions through.
I do not.
Yeah, so I'm fine from you.
Okay. So I think one of the final entries that we've got is from Hood, as far as I can see. So, Hood has presented the USS Maine Amphibious Assault Battle Carrier. Context: Fallout TM. Amphibious assault ship derived from the Iowa-class hull for use in marine vertibirds and later power armor units. Survives the Great War and was used by the Enclave on the Atlantic coast. Concept: the USM required a large, heavily armed platform to deploy Marines and Special Operations Forces to coastal or island areas via the new vertibird aircraft. It was also required to be capable of self-defense from surface and air targets with limited anti-submarine warfare capabilities as well as potent deployed naval support through both aircraft and ship-mounted weaponry. Specifications as of September 2077. Length 860 feet. Beam 108 feet at the waterline, 120 feet at the rear flight deck. Draft 42 foot standard, 44 foot full load. Displacement 55,000 tons standard, 62,000 tons full load. Propulsion 4 screws, 4 geared steam turbines. Power plant 8 water tube boilers producing 230,000 shaft horsepower. Additional power plant 12 fusion core power generators for backup power producing combined 120,000 shaft horsepower equivalent. Cruising speed of 21 knots, battle speed of 33 knots, maximum test speed 35 knots. Ship's company 1,800 naval personnel, 300 naval aviation crew, possible berthing for upwards of 500 marines, 300 with power armor. Armament: 6 8-inch super Gauss rifled cannons mounted in 2 triple turrets forward of the main superstructure. 4 5-inch 54 single guns mounted in single mounts with auto-loading feeding 2 ammo types, dual-fused shells and HE shells. 12 Gatling laser point defense mountings providing 360 degrees of laser-based point defense for SHORAD. 6 surface-to-air missile systems, 4 Sea-Sparrow missile launchers each holding 8 missiles. 2 rolling airframe missiles launchers holding 14 missiles in a 5-4-5 over-under configuration. 40 Tomahawk land attack missiles in 10 4-cell box launchers. 20 Harpoon anti-ship missiles in 5 4-cell box launchers. 12 Mark 46 ASW torpedoes located in 4 triple launchers. Sensors: AN SPS-49 air search radar, AN SPS-67 surface search radar, Mark 68 fire control director with AN SPG-57 radar ×2, Mark 38 gunfire control system. Embarked craft: 4 fast assault boats, 12 VB-01 vertibird transports, 8 VB-02 vertibird gunships. Unit history. USS Maine was commissioned in February of 2066 with the intention of acting as a testbed for future technologies, namely the experimental Gauss weapons that made up her primary armament. She would also be used to trial the efficiency of a large support-oriented surface unit to act to support the Marine Corps and for use as a fast, heavily armed surface operations deployment platform. I've lost where I was. She transferred the Panama Canal just as the US counterattack on Anchorage began in the winter of '66 after a lengthy shakedown cruise in the Atlantic. She was home ported in Seattle before being transferred down to San Diego to have better access to the amphibious base at Coronado. She would later conduct a deployment as part of the task force to assist in the Battle of Kodiak Island, embarking 4,000 Marines and the required vertibirds. Following this successful mission, the Marines stayed behind on the Maine alongside a pair of destroyers and frigates, looped down to Seattle to re-embark more Marines, and she had to back up deploying these Marines the following month. She would later forward deploy to Kodiak Island for the remainder of the Alaska campaign, being utilized to dash into the Cook Inlet to deploy vertibirds on raids on Chinese positions on the shore and on Fire Island. She would later participate in the final push to Anchorage, being the first US warship to embark T-51B model power armor and their operators, deploying them to General Chevy Chase's command post in the lead to the refinery complex and the later sweep through the city of Anchorage. Following the Chinese retreat, she would be transferred back to San Diego, then back through the Panama Canal to Newport News, where she was prepared for decommissioning. The US Senate and Congress had concluded, if separately, that the cost of such a vessel was far too great for the possibility of dispersing such capabilities to smaller, more cost-efficient ships. She was kept in a state of low readiness, and certain elements of the deep state, including the Enclave, later becoming the Enclave, pushed for her back her full deactivation before she was ordered on a final cruise up to the coast of Maine, her namesake state, for a posterity short tour. She departed on 22nd of October 2027, with a Great War and nuclear apocalypse occurring on the 23rd while she was at sea. She was later kept in a state of low readiness by the Enclave for much of the following time, unable to transit the Panama Canal and link up with the rest of the Enclave Navy assembled at Hawaii or around the Poseidon oil rig, Control Station Enclave. She was briefly activated at full readiness following the destruction of Control Station Enclave, as the Enclave hierarchy transferred its assets eastward, with a new CO, Admiral Dickerson, embarking and making her his flagship in 2168, before his son took command in 2204. She would later receive additional personnel for the ship's crew, aircrew, pilots, and marine units. In 2277 to 2279, Dickerson was ordered by the new president, James Nixon, to deploy to Chesapeake Bay and address the situation at Adams Air Force Base following the collapse of John Henry Eden and Colonel August Autumn's forces in and around the Washington, D.C. ruins. After assessing the state of Adams and the forces of the Lions chapter of the Brotherhood of Steel, he attempted to withdraw, later being killed by a daring raid conducted by a confederation of raided pirates of slavers under the so-called War Master of the Pit, who successfully killed the admiral, most of his crew, and captured the ship. The last sighting was USS Maine, was at the yard, the remains of Naval Station Norfolk, being protected by the raider scavengers group known as the Yar Dogs. Her current status as a combat-capable unit is unknown. It's a very interesting take. It's on a ship from the Fallout universe, and I think it's I think it's a very good take on it. If anyone else has anything they want to add.
I like it. The
Right.
Yard.
So that was the.
There isn't enough forced evolutionary virus in it for me for Fallout.
So the
It's
way
almost rather sort of. It's good. It's well written. Please don't get me wrong. It's well written, but it's not really almost dark enough for Fallout. It's kind of like sanitized Fallout.
I kind of understand what you're saying, but I would say that
There needed to at least be some mutants involved in taking it over.
Yeah.
Or alternatively, the Enclave's favorite super mutant should have been aborted.
Oh yeah. You've gone a lot farther than you should have, but then again, you never met Frank Horrigan.
Or rather, would have been sent there to reclaim it. Because, let's be honest, it's a major asset. So if you're going to send who are you going to send to reclaim that asset? It's going to be him.
Well, he was dead by the time she's in the yard.
Well, yes, but also if you believe he's the only one the Enclave have, then you really then you're being very nice to the Enclave.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, there is the whole thing that apparently Pearl Harbor survived. And that actually most of the US fleet is currently based in Pearl Harbor, in particular rusting and radioactive, so most of Hawaii is covered by ghouls, but they're basically surrounded by the dead US fleet, which theoretically could be made operational again. But yeah, and it makes sense.
Okay,
So
while the final vote and decision is mine,
I don't know, one more. I just realised I had it half written. I forgot to save the original one. So where do you want it quickly?
In general, you are very, very late, but I'll allow it.
I was
very late, but you're Foxo, so no one's going to argue with it.
This is fanfic of an RP, so.
Okay. Finally, I was wondering what these ships actually were. This is a good way to gather intelligence.
Actually, it's not, because this isn't accurate.
The GCWS Garm class battlecruiser. Name of nation of origin, the Grand Commonwealth. Year 1908. Armament: 2x3, 2x2, 12-inch 56 caliber guns, 12x6, 136mm 54 caliber guns, and 6x6, 1-inch 72 caliber machine guns. Armor: 9.2-inch belt, 7.2-inch belt extended, and a uniform 3-inch deck. Speed of 28 knots, coal and oil firing, and a range of 5,000 nautical miles. Named after the milk guardian mythological wolf that chases the gods and represent the entry of empires and power. They were laid down in 1908 after the failure of the Norland dreadnought. The Garm class were a response to the Sakharin Empire mass-producing 12-inch dreadnoughts. Built as the Grand Commonwealth's second capital ships beyond ironclad frigates, they were, with Dragonoid help, to try and apply the combat velocity of cavalry to naval combat. This led to them being 3 knots faster than the contemporary battle cruisers they were designed to hunt and kill, as the designers believed that they would be in service from being for 46 years, from 1910 to finally being turned into museums in 1986. The lead ship of the Garm-class Garm would pull double duty as both a museum and shrine to Alessi Anari, goddess of war and industry, patron of the military-industrial complex. Garm herself would almost start 3 major wars. The first in 1911, when after a flashpoint in the Sakuran Sea, she would break contact from the diplomatic envoy she was escorting after receiving a distress signal from an ocean liner, Ivan the Terrible, who would hit a 2-ton mine leaving a Sakuran harbour. The Garm would make a run at 28 knots to the sinking Ivan the Terrible, leaving behind the Sakura's contemporary battle cruisers handily. Her steaming rapidly towards a naval base would cause Sakuran fleet to mobilize in force and rapidly mobilize both nations. Her run would come to an end when a sister ship, Avalon, commanded by Canoness Artoria Silverfloof, who would hit 30 knots as claimed by her engineering crew chasing after her sister ship. Avalon would catch Garm at Thrickling and convince her ultranationalist crew to fall in behind and trust in Grandmaster Harold Hardrada's leadership. The Avalon would limp home with severe engine damage at 8 knots and go into a major refit 8 days after commissioning. Her next deployment in 1912 would be across the planet escorting aid and military convoys to Ferngill. Her captain would make several attempts to provoke the various Gotoro cruisers and capital ships into fighting, including regularly attempting to wash light and protect the cruisers with their weight. They're too big, you can't do that. As of 1928, the massive escalation in battle cruiser size and rise of the third cruiser type, the Grand Cruiser. She resonated a Grand Cruiser and given a massive rebuild and refit, transitioning to oil firing. Should be similar to the Grand Commonwealth in this time, appearing in propaganda art and movies. While still most of it is heavily classified, should be confirmed to be used to traffic uranium, plutonium, and heavy nuclear material in the late 40s. It is a common conspiracy theory she used to traffic several stolen nuclear weapons to the Commonwealth, with the implication this is how the Commonwealth built the atom bomb to begin with. Unfortunately, if any information survives of these operations, it is undiscovered. In 1956, should be turned into a shrine. Okay.
I need to try and actually make sure to get Hikari. If you do another one like this, I'll have to see about getting Hikari actually written up properly. I just ended up being too busy to actually write them up.
So while the final vote is mine, and I'm going to decide who wins this, I do want to hear from everybody on the panel what they think. Out of the 4 we've had.
Hood.
Hoods does have my more interest, I will be honest. Probably followed by Zwee. Chaz is good, just not my peer. And honestly, to a degree, I almost think they would go, right, no. You have... This ship is actually cursed. We don't
we don't want to recognize her existence for fear she'll come back.
I'm gonna...
Or she gets launched. After the launch disaster, it's then, right, you're now a training ship that's permanently laid up in this area where there's no water contact.
So, I'll go through Foxo. Anyone else want to have a say?
Well, I've got 2 votes cast, apparently, because there's mine, which was for chair, with Foxo as a close second, because I like the concept of the ship. And my mum, who's listening, and has beat me through and told me I've got to vote for Foxo, because she likes the ship. Again, it's the only battle cruiser / Grand Cruiser in there.
So, as the final... Sorry, yeah, go on.
Yeah. So that basically, that just as the second vote, literally purely for battle cruisers coming.
Yeah.
From a listener.
So, as the server owner and everything else, the buck does stop with me, and I do decide who wins. Now, I was considering a few things going into this contest as what I wanted to actually measure on. So I wanted to measure based on level of detail and the effort that was put into the actual creation of the material that supports the entry. So with that in mind, given that in terms of just quality of submission, it would be a 3-way tie in terms of just the ships themselves between the Owari, the Hood's Enclave vessel, the Main, and Chairs. But in terms of the effort that's gone into the submission itself, unfortunately, there is no contest. That has to go to Chair.
Don't acknowledge it.
And yeah, I'm not gonna lie. And also, Chairs was actually just a little bit above the rest in terms of I enjoyed it more. She's exactly the era of ship I like. Sort of mid to late Ironclad, and it was just
No, she's an early Ironclad fleet. She's just heavily delayed.
Just like it was just I enjoyed reading it, and it was great fun, and there was a lot of tongue-in-cheek humor that I could appreciate. It was just I really, really enjoyed it, and so yeah, the winner is Garden Chair's submission, the Central Battery Ironclad, Disenchantment.
Yeah, I will say I did also quite enjoy what was its classification? The first one we read out, the little gunboat that had VLS.
Oh wait, are you kidding me? Did I?
I don't.
Oh no! Sorry, it's just, fleet. You
The rowboat.
No, that's not it. It's just
You forgot the needle?
No,
Yeah, the needle.
that's not
The
it.
needle doesn't, but it exists. But yeah.
You forgot
Wait,
Simu's
yeah.
needle.
No, that's
No,
not what I'm.
she
That's
actually
not,
did the
that's
needle.
not what I'm grumbling about.
But yeah, I'm assuming.
It would be great if you
I
follow
thought-
up on what you.
I forgot to I set it up and I forgot to click the window capture button, so no one has seen the. Oh, luckily they were read out. It's
Yes,
fine.
no one
For the
has seen the
record-
pictures.
For the record, Hood, like the first good few paragraphs of that actually has happened in RP. The whole 1911 incident did occur.
Yeah, and the incident where she's trying to start a fight is also currently occurring.
The fact that this occurred on battle cruisers when we can keep up, we can't keep up. The only way they managed to even get intercept was they were ahead of her.
Like, my only issue I had with Chairs was halfway through it almost stopped being about the ship. It was a Monty Python skip.
Yeah,
I know, that's why I said it needs to become a TV show.
But it's not really about the ship. It's almost
No,
a
it's
Yes
not.
Minister episode.
It doesn't matter.
That's entirely fair.
It doesn't matter. It was still he gave the full specs, and it was an interesting read, which is kind of the point.
Yeah.
You didn't have to be.
Yeah, but I understand where Fox was coming from because
I think I just went mad one evening and that came out.
I'll be brutally honest, Timu's just irked me. Like, this makes no sense at all.
I know, that's half the fun.
Well, not really, because if you're having enough power for that gun, you can at least manage a basic motor. And because like you've got a Bofors 57 and a VLS module, you have enough power there. You can have an electric motor on board.
Well, you've got several for the VLS.
But it's only using oars. So surely someone could have thought, well, let's use some electric power for a propeller.
There is a motor for fast escapes.
Why wouldn't you just use that in general, though?
Camouflage, I think.
Motor loud.
Camouflage?
I don't know. That's what it said.
It's a canoe with a gun
It's
and
got
VLS.
a 50-7 on it.
Again, motor loud.
Yeah, but
You are aware how big the Bofors 57 is, right?
Yeah.
I think another part of the issue is, the issue I had with it,
I've just got the
was
buoyancy.
that for the slapstick and the humor to work, it sort of has to have a degree of, yeah, I could see that happening when it comes to slapstick. It's all what makes Monty Python and Chairs' work. You go, yeah, that could happen. while Timu's just goes straight off the.
The fact that it starts like as
absurdist.
literally a joke in the procurement office, and then
Yeah.
somehow has an actual sort of budget given to it, and no one went at any point, let's not.
Because chairs getting to that point, especially before halfway through, is like a. Yeah, I could see with some ass kissing and some ass covering how that could happen. And it's funny because of it. Timu just sort of goes, "What? What are you talking about?"
And also, if
Also, the fact it has literally zero armor.
It's a
It's got
canoe.
nothing with program, so it's not even got rifle round protection.
It's a canoe.
It's a canoe with a Mark 41 VLS
But I'm struggling to figure out how
Yes.
you fit that into a 7-meter long canoe.
and a Bofors 57.
With great difficulty.
You know,
This
you
is
don't.
why this is why I just don't like Timus, to be brutally honest.
It's very tongue in cheek,
But
but
the fact that
it's the wrong side of tongue in cheek for me. It's not a bad entry by any means.
the fact
but-
this has a full blown data link as well, and a surface search radar. No, you need one hell of a actual power plant for that.
Yeah, it's sort of set in that awkward area where it's. So it's not tongue in cheek on the right side of tongue in cheek. For you to go, yeah, I could see that's happened. It's funny because it's political fuckery. And it's not gone so far off the in absurdist route that you've gone. Oh, suspension of disbelief. It's a fantasy universe. Sort of like how the ships in One Piece don't make any other sense, but you accept they exist because it's an anime. It sort of sits between those really uncomfortable ground.
The other one called.
Wait.
Is it the?
Hello, Hood. How are you?
Yeah, it's the Skjold. Like, this is like this. I think we can reasonably agree. The Skjold that the Norwegians have is very small, sitting at 274 tons. But that's admittedly got the 76, but you could probably make that the 57 instead. And an 8-cell launcher. And has all the other stuff. Like, and that's basically someone took a speedboat, slapped a cannon to it, and a bunch of missiles. But yeah.
You forgot the part where they strapped in about three speedboats engines into that single seat speedboat.
Yes, true. Like,
you know, that's the only thing the
two Pratt &
they took
Whitney ST-18s and two Pratt & Whitney ST-40s.
Yes, basically they went, 4 speedboats worth of engines and one hull.
Because how are they powering the equipment? And I'm good. Yes, I know this makes sense. Like, it's got a draft of 0.35 meters.
Yeah.
That's not deep enough. That just honestly, it might have been better if you just hadn't included those statistics. Actually, wait. Then again, this just gets me more annoyed because at 6.2 tons weight.
The system weighs more than
The
that.
Bofors
That was the problem for me,
57 weighs like 14 tons.
Yep.
Like, yeah.
Nice idea, Timu. You can do better execution. We all know you can.
Sort of. Correct from the side. The issue is it's also way too grounded for you to just say magic.
Yeah, but also, like, I agree, Hood. Like, there are definitely small surface radars, but they all have engines.
And they're not literal canoes.
Actually, how deep is a Mark 41 VLS?
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, this is like ridiculously tall missiles stuck out the top of it.
Yeah, because either that
Height
CB90
5.3 to 7.7 meters tall.
yeah, and even the CB90 has a draught of 3.8 meters.
Yeah, I know his is entirely meant to be satire, but it's like, yeah, it goes beyond satire into annoyance, personally. But like, Ches is just a cavalcade of errors that I admittedly still would see them going, we're not putting this to sea later. Like, perhaps they've got a contract with the yard that the ship must be built, otherwise there's a hefty penalty clause for cancellation or something.
I mean, it also has to. It does sort of sit within a very, very stupid world that I've made.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean,
like,
Yeah,
and
but
then
I
what's
say a
called
naval
Zwiz
minister.
is also decent. There's problems, but it's trying to be thought out.
Yeah, at least Chairs this whole thing of. I could see a naval minister, for political reasons, has this post, and however has never seen the sea before. Given the green light for this, because it does have that Russian Navy energy at times.
And Hood's is silly, but it fits the silliness of the Fallout universe.
yeah.
It very well fits it.
But hers does seem too clean for the Fallout
No,
universe.
it's not though, because
It does.
the reason why is it's a pre-war thing, as I recall.
And also, the US
Yeah,
Navy
but
was...
yeah.
Like, this makes sense for it to be clean. And then,
Yeah, but-
like, perhaps some of its later service then, perhaps. But,
Or when it's under control of the Enclave, it's like.
well, then they would just make sure to murder any muties.
Yeah, well, problem is, it's where she is when the Great War starts. She's not in a position to help with the the campaign out west. And given the way the campaign in DC takes place, you don't really want to risk her in close there either. Like, maybe she was off screen providing a place where vertibirds could fly to and from, but there's not really much for her to do.
Riley with you. Do you want to leave Riley with you for a bit?
I mean,
Probably about 9, 10 o'clock.
Just remember, Fallout isn't just dirty for dirty's sake. There's reasons. I might have a lot of issues with it, but still. Like, I can understand it.
and it's sort of the Enclave are doing a lot of stuff on the East Coast.
And the Enclave are usually the nastiest and dirtiest faction of the group. So being a part of the
not
Enclave,
really.
they are.
They're actually remarkably clean. What they do is horrific.
Yes.
They are pretty clean, relatively speaking. Like, they don't get themselves involved with a lot of the dirty stuff unless it's a specialized site. You don't take a battle carrier and do the dirty stuff on it.
No, but
because it's an isolated area
yes,
where
you've got other places for that.
I would
Often
say.
Poseidon rig goes up, not really.
I would say if you've got a battle carrier which is functioning in the Enclave, it's going to be at least be the site of your special forces and possibly also be the site for a command center.
Yes.
So it's going to have a lot of that. And also, in the night, it's going to sound strange, but the fact that, again, I fundamentally do not believe that the Enclave are the sort of organization which is going to have one of anything. So if there was going to be any of their extra special super mutants, etc., they would be on that sort of thing, and they would be doing nasty things from there. And if they lost it, they would be sending everything to get it back.
Yeah.
Well, there's the whole problem of the Enclave kind of does completely collapse.
Yeah.
Yes and no. Cells of the Enclave collapse.
No Enclave as a entity mostly collapses from
The Enclave as an entity collapses, cells survive. Because
But
the
the problem
cell in
is-
Area 51 survives and becomes de facto head of the Enclave.
Yeah, because then technically, if you're going into some of the more fan stuff, that makes sense because the canon stuff goes, the Enclave is gone.
But then they come back. The Enclave is gone, but they came back.
There's small bits that, because you've technically got the
Oh, no.
remnants. You've got the remnants over at Navarro. Stop being the Enclave for a while and basically try and get themselves to a point where they can claim to be the Enclave again. You've got, I think, in a couple of the cancelled games, there's some comments about Enclave cells still existing.
Fallout Tactics, they exist in Area 51.
But
Well, what
And
remains of
also-
the FBI who are a part of the Enclave control 51.
There's also the fact that you have got this immense piece of pre-war technology floating around when you're going to tell me the Brotherhood of Steel haven't done everything they can to try and take it.
they might have. The problem is, if it's a functioning piece of pre-war tech, it might say no.
I'm struggling to think of any realistic Brotherhood of Steel deployment that could actually get through the air defense suite.
Before what's it called, bloody Maxon and all sorts. What's it called, Capital could do it.
They don't have the
Capital?
Yes,
they
they
don't
do.
have the vertibirds.
They do when right. So this is something I absolutely despise about it. So a lot of the material says after Fallout 3, right, the Capital Brotherhood starts being very weird. Noticeably, they start sharing bits of tech. They start improving the wasteland because they find what's the best way to stay in power. Make people like you.
Mm-hmm.
And they end up working with a lot of stuff there. Then you have the whole bloody thing with Maxon, and he goes, "Yep, nope, loot everything, steal the reactor from the nuclear carrier, and we're leaving." Before then, they probably could have actually got a force together to put up a fight to try and claim the vessel, or they could have just bought it.
I'm just
And remember,
Depending on the
then-
faction, they might have been able to just. The certain brotherhoods might be able to just go, "We will pay you a lot for this."
so in 2279 is when she's seized by the War Master of the Pit.
we don't know.
Oh, wait a minute. She was seized by the Brotherhood of Steel. She was
Yeah,
seized by the War
after-
Master of the Pit, who is an ex-Brotherhood of Steel chaplain. So Paladin. What's he called? The guy who runs the pit. He's
Then
an
once she
ex...
ends up in the yard, well, then someone else. There is probably a group that could probably come and claim it, but like, there's definitely ways.
I'm up here now because I can't type fast enough.
Yeah, fair.
Following along, so to highlight, based on a fanfic I'm currently doing, almost entirely based on the previous save I had for Tale of Two Wastelands. So the War Master of the Pit is my previous character.
Which explains how I was able to do it.
Who later seizes control of the pit and then the Brotherhood. For reasons of I don't like how the Fallout 4 Brotherhood are represented because they're fucking idiots.
Yeah.
So I kill Maxon.
Yay!
That really
Also, it
wouldn't
should
take
be
much
highlighted
effort or
that-
much difficulty.
No, he's a child. But when it comes to
I don't mean that
when
in
it
a
comes
rude way. I
to-
mean that in a. It's the most poorly written faction, I swear, in the game. The Fallout universe is the Brotherhood of Steel.
yeah, when it comes to hold on. When it comes to everything else, again, my thing diverges from the main timeline at around 2277. So whilst there are still lots of things that are very consistent, the collapse of the Enclave at Raven Rock, their full defeat in the capital region and most of Maryland, Adams Air Force Base, there is no more like compellingly large and powerful Brotherhood force that is able to do that after 2279, because this is the time where they're starting to do the thing in the main timeline where, fun fact, it's heavily implied that they simply quietly poisoned Elder Lions, the Elder, and then waited for Sarah to be doing her thing because she's primarily a combat person, she's not a leader of a chapter writ large, and simply get her killed in the field, which is what paves the way for Maxon to become the Elder. of the capital chapter. Similar thing goes down, except instead, my character effectively looms the idea that I in fact linked the. I did not completely destroy the uplink to the orbital weapons platforms. In fact, they have access to it, and then hold that over the head of the Brotherhood, and then uses it to destroy the Citadel. And any survivors basically get press ganged into service.
That seems
with
like
most of the scribes.
That seems like a.
I should highlight the reason for this is that my character goes insane.
Yeah, I can believe it.
Yeah.
After being sold into slavery to the pit, and then effectively being like, "Yo, this guy Ash has got a fucking idea. One sucks. What's anarchy sucks. It's not helped us to this time." And Asher has a plan. I'm going to side with him. Then seeing her dad get killed by the Enclave, she has a hate boner for the Enclave, which is why she goes out of her way to steal their toys.
Yay! Steal their toys. Marvelous idea. 10 out of 10 would steal their toys again. While we're on the topic of Fallout, since this is the part afterwards, which is me talking about what I want to talk about, I dislike the Pridwin. I dislike the Pridwin as a design. I dislike it as something the Brotherhood would build, because it goes completely against Brotherhood airship design nomenclature that we see up to that point. And also, quite frankly, who in their right minds in the post-apocalypse builds an aerostat rather than a free-floating airship? Who builds an airship that you have to keep the nuclear reactor running the jet engines to keep the thing afloat?
Like, can I just immediately shoot down one of your major points here?
What?
They didn't build her.
They did.
No, they basically
they rebuilt one that already existed.
Yeah.
They found her in a remarkably good condition and then got it working.
That's why I prefer the Fallout Tactics Zeppelins, because they're just slightly better represented.
Yeah, and obviously that's not. Yeah, the Fallout Tactics Zeppelins, like that's how they look in the cutscenes. But if you look at the actual crashed one, it's not a weird jet-powered thing. It's just a traditional piston engine.
So it's a rigid hull Zeppelin.
It's a traditional piston engine powered Zeppelin, which is what you would expect. Yeah, there you go. It's a traditional rigid engined Zep, rather than a jet powered weird thing. And
Pridwin, if I remember correctly, were built by pre-war America to be flying command ships for ground troops. The idea being, you can't storm and overrun an aircraft with infiltration.
That said, specifically, it is actually stated that the Pridwin was constructed by the Brotherhood and took 6 years to design and construct.
Yeah, I thought it did, because I wasn't sure. I mean, it would make a lot more sense if it was a pre-war airship. Because building an aerostat to carry the amount of armor and things she does, aka it's an airship that carries some of its weight on its lift engines, makes a great deal of sense if for pre-war America. But as a post-war design, you do not want something that gulps down a limited resource like reactor coolant to stay afloat. Especially when, as an organization out west, and presumably you brought some of the plans with you, you already have experience building proper rigid airships that can float on their own.
Okay, I found the issue. There was some point of confusion. The early airships, i.e. the ones that are seen in Fallout Tactics for the continuation war with the Unity remnants, those ones are recovered. The Pridwin and the, quote, next generation series of airships are all fresh designs and builds.
Okay, because from what I'm reading, they were created from wrecks found at Adams Air Force Base. And by it sounds of it, taking over 6 years to design and construct.
It simply specifies that they use scrap materials from Adams Air Force Base. That would probably explain like why a lot of the parts on the Pridwin and whatnot look fairly straightforward, look fairly like they would belong on an aircraft. So they've probably just taken apart most of the aircraft that were at Adams AFB, possibly some of the other stuff from around the DC area, because there's like more than one major Air Force base around DC. So it's entirely possible that they have also then salvaged more aircraft parts, both from Air Force bases and from airports in general, because Camp McCarran, which is McCarran Air Force or airport in New Vegas, has a lot of pre-war era aircraft, like fixed-wing aircraft that aren't used because it's incredibly fucking difficult to fly those in the post-war, because people don't really know how to.
Yeah, and they're also a lot of them have a massive fuck-off 6-engine nuclear airliners.
No, in New Vegas, they're like C-47 wannabes and some like smaller Cessna aircraft.
Aircraft in the Fallout universe.
I thought you were talking about the ones that
aircraft
the airfield in outside Boston.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, aircraft
because they don't have a so. It's really annoying when Bethesda does this, where they simply change up the design for like everything, purely for the sake of having something new and fresh to look at, which is why Fallout 4 feels so goofy to look at. And because they've redesigned a lot of the aircraft, we don't see the Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas era sort of twin-engine, piston-driven engine, sort of C-47 wannabes, the sort of twin mini jets that look a bit like a Cessna that's been refitted. And the B-52 or the B-29.
Yeah.
So you get these massive fucking commercial airliners that look like they have that are undeniably, we wanted a nuclear-powered aircraft, so we made a really fucking big flying wing. But then also said that this is a private jet, ? So I don't know. But those are also specifically have only really been mentioned as in and around the area of Boston, and I think there might be a wreck of one in Appalachia. I haven't actually played 76 yet.
In 76.
I could believe them being things as well, but both of these
Absolutely.
can likely exist at the same time. Not as a private jet, as you said.
In the ruins in the background of the Fallout TV show.
Yes.
So it implies that the nuclear jets are the 747 equivalents, while the aircraft seen in New Vegas exist at the same time as smaller
DC-10 style
aircraft.
Where they're your regional hoppers.
Yeah.
Yeah, which kind of makes sense.
Yeah, that's fine. The problem, it's just the aircraft in Fallout are very, very inconsistent. I mean, if we want to talk about weird aircraft, let's talk about the Chinese bombers from the Alaskan missions.
Right. I was going to say, because technically speaking, there's also a bunch of others that the Shi use.
Yeah.
Have access to.
Yeah.
But the issue with the ones you've seen of Operation Anchorage, that's literal propaganda.
This is true.
And
I should also point out, part of the reason that I made such a reference to Operation Anchorage was because, one, kind of important for Fallout, talking about the pre-war, like the pre-nuclear Holocaust Great War, because people forget there was a massive sort of unofficial armistice between the fall of the recapture of Anchorage Alaska, and the actual Holocaust.
From what I understand, I thought the war basically burned on until right at the end, given that US troops were in mainland China and were fighting on a front all the way from the tip of North Korea down through the Philippines to Indonesia, and with that front stretching through mainland China.
Yes, and that sort of there was a bit of a pause after the recapture of Anchorage, because predominantly the Chinese were willing to let parts of mainland China and whatnot fall, because so long as they had access to the oil in Alaska, they could maintain the war. As soon as it stopped, as soon as it fell, they no longer had like the pipeline. They no longer had like the ability to make use of that. They had to reevaluate, and in the reevaluation, effectively the thing about Limit 115 or the New Plague got back to China. This is also how the original canon was set up per Tim Kaine. The original thing about who started what was the Chinese shot first, because they found out about the things about what could have been FEV at the time, but definitely about Limit 115, which was initially intended to be a bioplague specifically designed to target like the Asian phenotype.
Oh.
So China realized we don't have a counter to that timely enough, because this seems like it's ready. We don't have an option anymore. It's time to pull the trigger on the nuclear turkey. And if we kill them hard enough first, they might not kill us back just as hard, which was evidently a miss.
To be fair, we don't exactly know.
It's the
what
one
happened.
though that I can understand.
Yeah, we don't exactly know what happened to the.
As far as most of the Fallout games are concerned, both in canon and in lore, China is essentially just a nuclear puddle in Asia.
The US hit them that hard?
Yes.
Yep.
The US targeted them with literally everything they had.
And from what we hear, the Soviets also targeted them as well.
It depends on which source material you're pulling from, but there is also like the highly thing that the Soviets also just settled some scores in Europe primarily as well.
It's why you've got technically two different sources for Europe.
It's implied that Europe and the Middle East nuked the fuck out of each other. Then the Soviets and Europe got into a fight, and that led to the Europeans and the Soviets nuking the fuck out of each other. It's just the backdrop for the Great War.
Because you've got two different events of what happens to Europe. In particular, what happens to the UK. One, the UK is a nuclear crater because the largest bomb of the war was dropped on it. Basically, they just went, we can't be bothered to deal with this. Remove it. Or option two, the UK gets nuked hard, but manages to survive and becomes very isolationist and goes, well, actually, we've still got a whole bunch of coal.
Yeah, it's quite funny. I actually wrote up a... I was once involved with the development of a Old World Blues successor / companion mod for Europe. And one of the things I suggested was basically given... Basically, as soon as Europe decides to go after the discussions of invading the Middle East comes up, the UK goes, I'm sorry, we're going to do what now? And nopes out of the European Federation and starts digging for coal again. And
Wasn't
then,
it called Britain already nopes out of the Federation?
the headcanon I came up with was basically the UK goes, right, okay, right. And look, we're declaring a no-go zone. Ain't nobody coming in, ain't nobody going out, and ain't nobody coming near. And you could all sort yourselves out. And
yeah, we can know that doesn't technically work because we know people do leave later. But
No, but basically this is the headcanon I came up with. And basically what I came up with was the UK does get some things lobs at it, but everyone's so bothered at shooting at the people who are actually shooting at them that the UK comes through not unscathed. There's still a whole lot of famine and this and that, but the structures of government survive and the nation itself mostly survives. By the 2200s, it's basically you've got like Ireland's completely broken away, so that's just lost. But the United Kingdom is less united than it was. Scotland and Wales are now totally devolved, swearing fealty to the Crown and Parliament in London. And the UK, while it is less population dense, is still easily one of the most powerful nations in Europe, given the continent's a hellhole. But basically the whole thing is splendid isolation. That's a good idea. And
that's one of the reasons that I actually enjoy the baseline writing and a lot of the presentation of Fallout London so much.
Yeah.
A lot of the other, like some of the minutiae of it, like having Voltazon, which is just we combined Fallout Vault-Tec and Amazon to make our own thing. Like I'm not super keen on that. But a lot of the other stuff where the general like story plot points are relatively faithful to how the UK is occasionally represented in Fallout writ large. We know for a fact that prior to the Middle East War, the UK had already broken away. In part because of we want to keep the Empire. No, you can't keep the Empire if you remain here. Right, then we'll go. Goodbye. and there's our own little Cold War with the rest of Europe,
Yeah.
leading up to the nuclear war. Moderately speaking, the UK only has like a lot of its major military bases and parts of London targeted. Most of London is saved because of the Pindar stations, as they're called in Fallout London, as well as we do have our own interception technology and intercept the majority of the warheads that target London. But other military bases are not so lucky, and other parts of the UK are pretty heavily irradiated because of that. When it comes to the rest of like how Europe is represented, again, there's very little in the post-war like landscape because not many people are making like oceanic voyages outside of the Enclave, because as far as we know, they're the only superpower-like entity that is able to exert that kind of strategic mobility. And the primary way they do that is via their use of vertibirds and Poseidon ships.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons.
There is a quick counter. There is apparently, because there is I can't remember which game it is, but there is a Irishman who has come from Ireland.
Yes.
After the bombs dropped, on a boat to America. So it's a case of, okay, what's going on here?
I believe that's meant to be Colin something in Fallout 3. The tavern keeper in fucking Megaton.
Yeah.
He's meant to be an Irish born and bred guy who comes over. No, not Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell. Cause
by the way, there is a person in, I think you are right, it's Fallout 3, that
Moriarty
has come from Ireland to the US by a boat.
Yeah.
And it raises a lot of questions then.
Yeah, and there's also two Irish nationals in Far Harbor.
So there must be some form of travel between the two.
Can I finish?
No,
I wasn't. Can I?
I'll do this quickly.
Yeah, very quickly.
But we also know there isn't exactly still quite a bit of transoceanic channel, because we know of several large oil tankers who are reenacting Waterworld as ghouls while at sea, which is fun.
It is very funny to me that the oil tanker in Fallout 2 is literally the Exxon, is the Poseidon Valdez, by the way.
Yeah.
And because we've got tankers that run aground, it's where you've got Norwegian sailors who are ghoulified south of Boston.
I also forgot fucking Alistair Tenpenny, a British national who appears in Fallout London, who then also tries to do the same shit he does in Fallout 3 by blowing up the London Eye.
And then of course you've got what's he called? That mean son of a bitch. What's he called? That British Secret Service agent who's trying to.
I just finished Point Lookout the other day in my Tale of Two Wastelands thing. That is Desmond Lockhart.
Yes.
Because
I'm not saying that there is an individualized transportation. I'm just no power that we know of, like a national power, is able to exert that kind of strategic mobility.
These still things do still go.
Yeah. So what I basically came up with was an idea that, because the whole point of this is supposed to be, part of the mod, was basically this would be a sort of a soft NCR equivalent. So basically, it's the total UK. Obviously, as the player, if you're playing as England, you have soft control over Scotland and Wales as well through puppets. But you're strapped with a restriction that basically says splendid isolation. Your army can't be bigger than this. Your navy can be whatever size you like, but your army can't be bigger than this. And you get a special naval tech tree. You don't get a base game tech tree. So you can build things like armoured and protected cruisers with 6, 8, or 10-inch guns, battleships with 12-inch guns, and destroyers with torpedoes. So like a proper sort of steam and steel navy. But you are limited in what you can do. You've got to sort out the British Isles first and either prevent them from fragmenting or... I basically came up with two end states. One was if you vested power in Parliament and either kept the monarchy that way, or reduced the powers of the monarch to the constitutional level we now have it nowadays, rather than the sort of half and half that it is at game start, you can peacefully federate with Scotland and Wales again, get them back in instead of being puppets that are devolved. You can integrate them properly, and then you reform, and then you re-invade Raider-controlled Ireland, and you form the reunited Kingdom of Great Britain. Alternatively, if you
disappear and go and do my dinner because I've been told the kitchen's clear and it's working, so I'm going to go get food while I can from today. Take care.
Good idea.
Bye.
Take care.
And my fail state for the UK was you don't reform anything. Scotland and Wales rebel and break away, and you're left with England, and then that's it. That's the fail state. And it is a path the AI can take. But the other path is you vest more power in the monarchy and the House of Lords, and depower not only the English Parliament but the Scottish and Welsh parliaments. You fight a war with Scotland and Wales, which you win, forcefully integrating them, and then you decide, you know what, maybe it's time we actually did, as the last standing old polity in Europe, maybe it's about time we organised Europe under us. And there was also one other mechanic that I gave the British. Stored away in a bunker port is an intact SSBN with 12 intact MIRVed missiles. And as the UK player, you would basically have to jump through hoops to get permission to use the damn thing. But if you did, you'd have 12 nuclear strikes you could use. But once they're gone, they're gone.
Which, to be fair, actually, in Old World Blues, not that useful.
No, I know, but it's basically it was more for world building than anything else.
It just doesn't really have that sort of Fallout vibe, though.
Well, it was because I wanted to basically have I felt the mod needed something that it needed an NCR equivalent, and I thought, well, how do I give that to Europe? Well, let's have it be the UK, because they are the ones it's easiest to give that to, by conniving, complete breakaway from Europe, complete isolation from Europe, the defense systems that Hood said they had. It's possible to create a scenario where the UK is battered, but the polity remains intact, London survives, the royal family and the Houses of Parliament survive, and the country recovers. It doesn't break down.
All right. So I was very curious when we were talking about this, because I was like, hang on a minute. I know that there's a faction in Fallout London called the Cavaliers, who are basically just the remnants of the household cavalry. What is the status of the royal family in Fallout London? So I checked. Currently, as far as I can infer, there is a royal family still. However, at the time of the Great War, the monarch of the United Kingdom was Victoria II, who allegedly either died just after the nuclear exchange or during the nuclear exchange. And there has not been a full head of the household or head of or sovereign. There is no current active monarch because of the fact that the Queen died in the exchange or just afterwards. So whilst there is still a royal family that exists, most of the government is still, as is the case in Fallout London. I'm not going to spoil it, but Parliament still exists and is doing Parliament things. However, the monarchy seems to be defunct in the sense that they don't have a say in things because there is no monarch, ? Or the monarch, inferred from this Reddit post, either died right before the events of the game or at some point prior to the events of the game, and so the Cavaliers have simply maintained their vigil with the absence of the monarch until the new one is essentially allowed to accede to the throne.
I do know what actually happens to the monarchy. You do get a quest to deal with it. Would you like to know, or would you prefer I keep mum?
Keep mum, because I haven't gotten there yet. Also, I do know for a fact that this was cut quite early on, but their plan was to have a ghoulified Queen Elizabeth II in the game, and I believe that one of the devs actually kind of wanted her to record some, Queen Liz herself to voice some lines, which I think would have been very fun and game of her, but also realized that she only really does that kind of thing if she wants to. It's one of the reasons that she herself is the one who actually appears in the 2012 Olympics appearance with James Bond.
Yes.
Because she asked to do so.
Yes. Yes. Good old Liz.
But then again, she's also she was quite okay with these random things like this. So there is a non-zero chance she would have went okay.
I believe the plans for this were implemented in mid 2021.
And well, the kerfuffle...
And they made mock-ups, and then she died in 22, and okay.
Yeah, let's not have
that's not.
Yeah, let's not.
Out of respect, we won't.
But does anyone here remember Johnny English?
Yes, of course.
Yes, I do. And there's no microphone.
Johnny English. That's
You
the
cut out.
actual Queen doing it. He did lines for Johnny English.
Oh, when the ultimatum of my mate has the better claim to the throne, will you abdicate? And she says, no, I won't do it. And then he holds up a gun to her corgi. She's like, fine, I'll do it. Mostly as a riff on, the Queen cares more about corgis than she does the nation.
Yeah, it is
which
a bit of a riff.
She personally didn't like, but also was kind of okay with it because it was a comedy.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone.
With Roman Atkinson.
Yeah.
And it was his movie he was writing.
Right, ladies and gentlemen. Now, as I'm sure you're all aware, it is now time to end. Obviously, tune in on Friday for Catch Up Ramblings, and oh dear Lord, have we got a lot of questions to deal with. Jesus. Not that many, actually. We should be all right. But yes, so tune in on Friday. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I hope you've all enjoyed, and that obviously, congratulations, Chair, for winning the ship design contest. There will be more to come from that, since that was seemingly very popular. Tune in tomorrow if you are a Twitch enjoyer. Well, that's fine. Channel Lord, it sometimes happens. I don't rate. Quite frankly, the Discord side of it I still run because it's easy to organize the panel here, but it's growing the YouTube side of it that matters, and there's 7 people on YouTube watching it.
I think next time I might include a
I don't think my new
platform
system
for my
does have a floor night. This is kind of a bodge job. The new system is basically I will do whatever I want on a Monday, and if it's a Ramblings, it'll be a Q&A Ramblings, and if it's not, it'll be something else with no questions being taken. And then there'll be a thing on Friday. This was just a bit of a half and half, because I had to do the contest, and I had to make an announcement, and I couldn't not answer questions, because I needed to answer questions so that, people weren't just, there had to be some notice given. Can't exactly do things without giving notice, can I? It's not fair. But yeah, so I'll see you all tomorrow if you do enjoy following me on Twitch. If not, that's fine. If you want to come along and just lurk and listen to Fleet get blown up by the British in the background, because I've somehow found myself at war with the British, and as the French in 1906, I mean, admittedly, I am going to be the first person to commission dreadnoughts in the world. I've beat the British to the punch by about 6 months. And I am going to have 8 by the time they have 6. So that's going to be the thing that decides this war. Can I get my dreadnoughts in service and worked up while my pre-dreadnought fleet desperately holds the line against the British? And will my allies help? So take care, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Monday evening.